seeds.
Welcome to the John Doe Radio Show. This week on JDR, we bring back a show from January 4th, 2011. In this show, we talk with Nikka T, who went on to found Essential Extracts. There is a ton of awesome information about water hash and non-solvent hash making in this episode. Some old school great friends give us a call in on this episode also, like Derek and Dredd. It was a fantastic interview, one of the most requested interviews to bring back on JDR and one of the most listened to interviews we have ever done on JDR. Enjoy, have yourself a fantastic week. I'm John Doe. See ya.
John Doe Radio.
Let's see some big bucks. Stop it all.
What if I get killed by gas? The Rammies are coming to steal your stash.
We interrupt this program with a special bulletin from the John Doe Radio Show.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Do you want to get high?
You're listening to the John Doe Radio Show.
You smoke marijuana? It's against the law, you know.
We're going to take prohibition and throw it out the window.
Taxing marijuana is only one good reason why marijuana prohibition should be brought to an end.
Growing, selling, illegal.
How tired can you get?
John Doe.
Pass the joint on the left-hand side.
Welcome.
Pass the joint on the left-hand side.
Welcome to the John Doe Radio Show. I am your host, John Doe. Today is a lovely and beautiful Tuesday, January 4th. Again, thank you guys for joining us. If you're listening to us live at stickham.com/John Doe Radio, please send me your questions and comments today for our good friend Selecta Nikka T over here. Let me get a mic check for you, dude. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys out there?
Dude, you were here to join us today to talk about hash, right?
Yes, extracts, specifically solventless extracts.
Okay, let me fix your mic here. Cool. Just want to make sure everybody can hear you. All right, good times. It should be all right. So solventless extracts is your specialty. Yeah.
Yes, solventless extracts, specifically ice and water.
I guess we'll get into it, but I guess what's your favorite thing about doing the solventless?
Well, basically, the reason I push solventless is the health benefits of these solventless extracts. I don't recommend using solvents, not only because there are leftover heavy metals in the solvents, but basically I really support just the use of ice and water because I'm able to get similar products with just ice and water as those that get them with solvents.
Yeah.
And they're a lot healthier, a lot tastier. I tend to get a lot more of the terpenes out in the water. And I just personally prefer it, and I prefer spreading that.
Cool, man. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a few minutes. I don't know how much time you have with us. How much time you got with us today? We're going to do like a 3-hour show today. Tuesdays are our long shows, but, I mean, you can spend as much time with us as you want.
I'll hang out.
Whatever works. Cool. Good times, man. Also on the show today, we'll catch you up with some details on news stories that have been going on here the past couple of days, and I'll update you guys on specifically a story that isn't necessarily the funniest story in the world, but it comes from a dude who's in decently funny movies. So I don't know if you heard of that, but the star of Jackass, one of the stars of Jackass, the 3D movie and all the Jackass movies, was busted with some green. And it's actually pretty funny because it's the first time I've ever heard of somebody being charged with a certain kind of paraphernalia. You know, like we'll get to that here. Maybe we'll get to that in the second hour. This first hour, we'll try and do a lot of hash talk. We'll answer questions that you guys have. If you have any questions for Selecta Nikka T, give me a call. I told him he didn't need his headphones. Maybe we'll have to actually work the headphones out if we get a call. So I'm sure there's going to be a call. There's absolutely we get so much response when we get a professional like yourself in here. We get so much of a great response from people. People ask 20 questions about it. It's just awesome. So it's great to have you here, man.
Give thanks.
I hugely appreciate that. So you've lived in Colorado for a lot of your life?
Yeah, a good bit of it. Yeah.
Does the winter ever give you any more trouble than like the summer? I mean, is that a better time for you to sleep? I know these are like completely off topics or whatever, but I mean, It's just something that the chatters came in last night. I was up late, and they're coming in. They're like, "Don't you ever sleep?" Ask a 20 question. I'm like, and the people that know me are like, "This fool never sleeps,"
Yeah, no, I'm very similar. I rarely sleep. I think I sleep a bit better in the winter. I like the cold, especially for extraction. It helps everything.
Yeah. No, I'm not a huge fan of the weather necessarily during the summertime. So it's not sleeping type of weather. And for me, when it comes down to relaxation, good times, I like a good snow, man. The first snowfall of the year, you got that really. Usually it's pretty calm, and usually we get a pretty decent snowfall the first one of the year. You walk outside and it's just like that calmness, like beautiful, awesome calmness. It's not really that cold a lot of the time when we get our first snow. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's cold, but it's warmed up now that the snows fall, yeah. Yeah, like when the snow falls, when we get like a good snowfall here in Colorado, it's usually not like cold when it's snowing, man. And it's weird, unless it's like a blizzard and blowing at you and it's crazy. It's cold afterwards, maybe cold before, but unless you like maybe live here in Colorado or live in a place that's kind of like it, it's strange, man. And you could walk outside in the middle of this huge snowstorm and the wind not really be blowing too much, and it's just calm as heck, dude. And the mountains, it was crazy like this too, because sometimes the mountains would get just like feet. And I used to live next to a ski resort up your Steamboat and Craig area, and you'd be driving like in the middle of the night. Well, I'll give you this example. You'd be driving like in the middle of the night, and there was a few times where we just like pull over, like somebody emergency. Your passenger would like emergency have to use the restroom, and some places in between Denver and Steamboat and Craig, specifically between Silverthorne and Craig, there's not a lot of places to stop. So you'll stop for a pit stop off the side of the road or whatever. And a few times though, it was pretty snowing pretty good, and you'll stop off the side of the road, dude, middle of the woods on like an overpass, just like nothing around you, nothing, dude, but the snow, you and the trees, and dude, it's the craziest thing in the world, dude, to be out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a snowstorm. It's like some fairy tale shiz. And that's why I live in Colorado. That's kind of why I went into that. I don't know why. It's just random craziness topic that the portfolio, the Rolodex brought up. So, I love that.
Fair enough. I actually just came from living up in Vail last year.
Really?
Yeah, I was managing or working at a dispensary up there called Treeline Premier Dispensary.
Oh yeah, that's Treeline. They had a dispensary down here. Do they still have the one in Denver?
No, I don't believe they've had one in Denver. They do have a location in Boulder, and
were they the ones? They were one of the first ones that got robbed, weren't they? Am I right? It was called Treeline. There was a Treeline dispensary here in Lone Tree or somewhere like that.
That might have been a different one.
Might have been a different one, but I know it was. I know it was like a Treeline was one of them. The dudes that had, I don't know. It was probably a different one, but these dudes that robbed this one place ripped the safe right out of the drywall. I was like, what the heck?
Drywall.
You're live on John Doe Radio. What's up?
Yeah, I was just having questions about the hash.
All right, turn us down for me. You get a bunch of feedback there. I can't hear you.
But I don't have headphones.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, man. What's going on?
All right, I just got a few questions about the hash.
You got a few questions about hash. All right, well, you can ask those, and I don't know if we'll get to them right away. We'll get into some hash here in just a minute, but go ahead and ask them.
What's the ice? How much ice do you use versus how much shake? What micros are the most consistent one for the best hash?
Right on, man. We'll get to those. For sure. Those are some of my top questions.
You said call, ask for questions, so I called in.
Sweet, man. We'll get to that here in just 1 minute, and I guarantee I'll answer those for you. I appreciate it, man.
All right, now.
Thank you. Sweet, dude. And let's get right into it. People don't want to hear us talk about the weather. When I sat here and boosted up, one of the best hash makers in the world was going to be sitting here joining us. So let's get right into it. We have Select and Nikka T sitting here in the John Doe Radio Show's Charlie Stash Studios. He is one of the best hash makers in the entire world. I do not question that. I consider myself a an authority when it comes to judging cannabis and hash strains. Maybe not as much as everybody else out there, but I know the best when I see it, and this dude makes some of the best bubble hash in the entire world. He makes it for the Cherry Company here in Denver. What are the other 2 dispensaries?
The Cherry Co., Highland Health, and the Pearl Co., all in Denver, Colorado.
And however you need to move that mic or you move the chair or whatever it is, then go ahead and move it. I think it'll... Cool, awesome. So yeah, we just had a call that had a caller that had some important questions. Now those are some of the most important questions that we can answer, probably the biggest questions that we can answer. But first, maybe let's tell a little bit about yourself, what got you started in hash making, and why to this, like what got you to this point of your incredible hash making career.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't consider myself one of the best hash makers in the world.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. You're just being kind.
It's all about controlling variables in the simplest form. I started making hash back in California, where I grew up. Being California and Northern California, there was a lot of product for me to extract. So really, it was just my surroundings around me that got me started in this industry. And then going to Amsterdam about 6 or so years ago really pushed the barrier for me. I spoke with Mila from the Pollinator Company. And she taught me a lot of very, very important oral tradition that was never written down. I stayed with her for a while in the dam, and she's a huge influence on my process.
Right on. So you stayed in Amsterdam for a while, and what was that like in Amsterdam? Like, pause on that moment for a little bit.
Amsterdam was great. Whenever I talk about Amsterdam, being out here in Colorado and being from Northern California, it's really not too different. In fact, I think some of the cannabis that we have in Colorado really topped the cannabis in Amsterdam.
Oh, you heard it right here. Cannabis in Colorado can top the cannabis in Amsterdam. All right, select a Nikka T. You said it.
But yeah, Amsterdam was nice. I really enjoyed a lot of the extracts in Amsterdam. There was one specifically that I still remember to this day. It was the Master Blaster from Any Day Cafe. Top choice from Nikka T.
What was it called again?
The Master Blaster.
Master Blaster. Do you know what it was made?
Made from Stella Blue cannabis. One of the only blue strains I took a liking to. It really had the flavor of the color blue rather than blueberry.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but did it. So wait, then did it have an incredible taste to it too? Then you think it would have brought all that with it?
It was an anisey, licoricey blue taste.
What? Weird. That's crazy, dude.
Love it.
I made some. Well, we'll get to that here in a minute. So yeah, after you got done with Amsterdam, continue on. Like, what was after that?
From Amsterdam, I was actually living out here in Colorado, and me and a really good friend, doing a bunch of extractions out here in Colorado for our patients. And now it's continued. Now I'm actually working in a commercial facility here in Denver, and loving it.
Sweet, dude. And then the commercial facility, is it, I don't want to ask too many specific questions or anything, but you mentioned off 3 of those dispensaries here in Denver that you take care of. Is the facility like partnered between all these guys, or is it like one facility and then you make your hash and distribute it to different ones? Are they're all connected in one way?
Yeah. So our facility is actually part of our centers. So it's all in-house grown, and I am making the product from our in-house grow that gets sold out of our 3 stores that our in-house grow is for. Every once in a while, there's a little excess that gets to be redistributed to other centers. It used to be a time when there were quite a few centers in Colorado carrying my extracts. But right now, the 3 centers that I'm working for are eating it up pretty nicely.
That's pretty awesome, man. And you put some, just for the live chatters here, too, to see the bong come into play here, the Illusion Glass satellite here. There's a little screen loaded into the ice catcher, and there's a little concentrate loaded into this. What is this that
that is some of the Lemon Kush solventless wax.
Nice.
And it is available right now at the Cherry Co. Plug. It's one of my favorites. It's got extremely strong terpenes. It really smells like lemons.
It does. It smells. It's awesome.
And it's a nice full melt.
Beautiful, man. No, you could tell us about it more. I'm going to take a hit or two here, or whatever you want. If you want to take a break for a second, I'm taking a hit. That's all.
Go. This concentrate was made with just ice and water. I really like to stress that once again. No solvents used whatsoever, although it has a real nice waxy blonde texture. I actually I recently got an opportunity to review some things for Kind Reviews, and I reviewed some solvent waxes, and then I taste mine right afterwards, and they were nice, but this solventless wax just has a little bit more of a flavor to it.
Yeah, it does.
And that's really what I prefer in my smoke. I like the terpenes quite a bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, I made some wax here the other day, and it's out of the tangerine. And I mean, people know the tangerine, know the...
That smelled great, though.
Yeah, know the smells, know the greats. And it smells absolutely fantastic, but there's a huge difference between it and this solventless hash, because the taste is absolutely non-comparable. There's no comparison between taste when it comes down to the difference in the two. So it's a fantastic taste, the solventless, as compared to the solvent. So huge thanks on that. And you kind of get that lemony taste to the hit too. And that's crazy, man. Like if people that know, let me light this here. People that know hashes and stuff, and people that have made it before will tell you that you can't necessarily pull out those terpenes and the resins and everything that gets that smell into the hash. I mean, it takes it takes a good, really strong bud, first of all, probably, and then two, how do you get that? How do you get it out?
That's an amazing question. Yeah, well, first of all, the beginning product, either the trim or the bud that I'm using to extract, is a huge factor, obviously. The higher quality the beginning product, the higher quality your hash is going to be. The more your beginning product smells like the original strain, the more your hash is going to smell. But aside from that, getting the terpenes out of your hash is there's a few tricks to it. One is keeping your temperatures low. You always have to keep your temperatures between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 34 degrees Fahrenheit. I try not to let my temperatures raise at all above 34
anywhere really around
Fahrenheit.
You. So you're working in a place that's cold?
Yeah, in fact, my facility is almost a walk-in freezer. We're just finishing the touches on it, but it stays below 35 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow. All right, since we're basically at the beginning of the hash making talk here, let's go ahead and go back and answer this guy's questions that they gave a call in. Thank you. Appreciate the call. Hugely appreciate the call. The first question that was asked, the first couple of questions that was asked was, what screens are you using, and maybe some differences in those screens, and then also how much ice per amount of either bud or trim or shake. And then just go ahead and do your thing, man.
Excellent.
One of the things that's important, too, that you like to talk about is the difference between crushed, dry, Yeah, go ahead. Start off.
So first I want to talk about the micron sizes. Very important to extraction, especially using ice and water. Just to familiarize you, micron is a unit of measurement. It's an extremely small unit of measurement. It's used to actually measure the diameter of the holes in the silkscreen bag. So the smaller the micron, the smaller the size holes. The larger the micron, the larger holes. Basically, the biggest myth out there is that the smaller the micron, the cleaner the hash.
Were you hitting this?
Oh, no, I'm okay.
See, I figured that you don't necessarily hit your hash as much as you like watching people hit it.
That is true. I smoke my hash out of spliffs, though.
Cool. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
So basically, the biggest myth about micron sizes is that the smallest micron is the cleanest. Oftentimes, if people are using a 25 size micron bag, you're actually picking up a lot of broken trichomes and other plant particles in that 25 bag. I actually prefer, instead of using a 25 bag, to use a 38 size micron bag. Mm-hmm. It used to be a custom bag. Now it is actually sold via pollinator. But 38 is one of my favorite bags to keep at the bottom. However, lately, I've been pulling some of my favorite hash out of my 120 bag. Most people think that that's pretty rare, but if you're using a nice, fresh, frozen material and agitating very gently, you are going to pull some nice material out of your 120 bag. Now, also, there's going to be a huge difference in what bags you're going to use compared to what strains you're using.
Okay.
An indica, say like a big grape ape or something like that, is going to yield a lot more in your larger size micron bags.
Okay.
Your 70 through your 120.
Why, do you know why that is? Like, what's the why? Like, why?
Basically, indicas have larger trichomes than sativas.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And this is generalizing, fully generalizing.
I did not ever know that.
There are sativas that have enormous trichomes, like the snowcap and the Durban Poison, actually, here in Colorado, has some pretty nice large trichomes for a sativa.
Awesome.
So yeah, generally speaking, it's going to depend on the strain that you're using, where you pull your bags. Also, I will oftentimes use a set of, say, 7 different bags my first run, see where I'm yielding, change up the bags my second run.
Wow.
It gets to be about a science, and when you get more used to the strains that you're working with, you can control those variables a lot better.
Yeah, I can't stress enough too about like people getting used to your strains. Like I hear of people all the time not keeping genetics and not working with them. You know, maybe going from like seed every single time, and I can't stress more than to just settle down for a minute, you know, and get to know these strains as you go, because you know who knows how you use them in the future. And also should I just call you Nick?
Nick is fine, yes.
All right, cool. I've been calling you Selecta from beginning, and no, I call you Nick. So I mean that's what you're kind of explaining too here is you getting to know them from beginning to end will help you go from end to byproduct, you know, and to get that goodness from it. So, and I tell you what, if you're not saving here, we have a question here. I know we didn't answer the ice one yet, but if you're not saving your greens, you're doing something wrong.
Give them to me.
Yeah, bring them to Nick. He'll use them. We still got that. I want to throw another one in here, like with the question of how much ice and how much trim you use. One of the Dread's asking, does he recommend getting rid of the fan leaves before you spin your trim?
Most definitely. In fact, I do not run fan leaf. I've done it, you know, I've tried it for years, different batches, different trim, even if I see trichomes on it. Really, for time-wise, my runs often take 7-8 hours one batch. I'm not trying to run fan leaf.
Yeah, I ain't trying to work.
No
8
disrespect
hours
to the
with
fan,
leaf,
but they're water leaves. They're not holding the trichomes that are needed for the extraction.
Yeah.
So yeah, just close trim, fresh frozen close trim preferably. In fact, I'd personally rather use fresh frozen close trim than dried buds. Oftentimes people say the buds are the best for extraction. I tend to get a better surface area with my fresh frozen.
Ah, okay. And then for the question that the first, or I don't know, I think it was the first part of his question.
The ice question.
Yeah, for how much ice per trim?
You know, let's see. I haven't worked out of a 5-gallon system in a little bit, but
you regularly use what?
I use about a 32-gallon system right now.
Bam!
With the 5-gallon systems, the at-home users, the patients, I would suggest starting with 10. Yeah, it's a 10-pound bag. The normal bag that you buy at the grocery store, they normally come in 10s or 20s. I would suggest starting with a 10-pound bag with a gallon of water in your 5-gallon washing machine or in your 5-gallon bucket setup. That's what I start with. I'm adding ice consistently to keep that temperature down if you're not in a walk-in freezer.
So you want it to keep thick with hash. Like, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to spin it.
Yeah. You really, you know, I use enough ice so that it is difficult to spin it, but definitely not too much so that it's too much agitation. In fact, there's going to be a huge difference between dried trim and fresh frozen how much ice you're going to use for dry compared to fresh.
Crazy, man.
You want to be very gentle with the dry trim.
Very gentle. And you want to be gentle with the dry trim because it's dry, and the quality of hash depends on how many trichome heads that you're busting off and the less amount of actual plant matter in that hash. So that's a huge thing with that's why you like using the frozen as opposed to the dry trim.
Definitely.
Because, that dry trim will crush up, and just like,
And with the frozen, it's a lot easier to just sever heads rather than grabbing the whole stalk and some plant matter with it as well.
Yeah, and that's what was interesting after we made some wax. We looked at a little bit of the wax through one of the 420 scopes. And it's interesting because, you could see the heads ripped off, and there were still some heads here and there, but you could see the stalks still kind of there. And it was still dry, but, you're not agitating as much. And, that's just coming in and doing its thing, ripping the heads off, and there's stalks probably taken off too. But it's just interesting. It's if you ever get a chance to look through a magnifying glass, it's something that's been hashed, especially maybe that non-agitated butane. I haven't necessarily looked too closely at bubble hash because I never really thought of it. It's always been that gunk. So it's like I don't know how you would look. I don't know. It's been I don't know. I wish we had a scope because we were just looking at the lemon kush yesterday underneath that 100 times.
Man, you got to just heads.
Wow, dude, that's cool. The hash alone is one thing. Like to look at that, but I'm talking like the actual to look at the material that you got it off of underneath after you've done it, after you've ran it to see it. It's like a harvested wheat field.
Oftentimes, very oftentimes the heads are just gone. To take a look at the plant matter beforehand.
Yeah, but I would suggest if you're looking for pictures, if you want to look, if you want to see some great pictures that somebody's taken of some of his different qualities of hash, different types of hash, I would suggest Paul Token's page on Facebook. They got some really great pictures on there, HD ones. I'm sure as time goes on, they'll be adding more and more and more there, and also other people's places. So, yeah, search for Paul Token. He's got trichomes as his picture. And
Paul is another one of my variables. I said earlier that controlling your variables is very key to the extraction process. Paul does amazing justice to my pictures or to my hash by creating his pictures, and that is a beautiful variable.
It's pretty awesome, man. So the thing is, man, and the reason why I say that you're one of the best in the world, man, is because you just don't find the quality of hash that you do really anywhere. You could go to... I've been to quite a few dispensaries, and I think Paul Token has been to probably 10 times more dispensaries I have, or at least he's been to dispensaries, not just different ones. He's been to dispensaries a lot more than I have, maybe the same one a bunch of times. Bottom line is he's seen a bunch of hash and seen the quality and stuff, man, and he says your quality is some of the best that is out there that you can get. And it's just period, end of story. You cannot find... I have not found hash like your quality of hash anywhere. I've never even seen the type of stuff that you've made solventless ever. Like I didn't even know that you could get hash to look like the hash that you make, the hash that I've been showing in the room. Like you make hash look like this without using extract or without using solvents, man, and that's crazy. And there are people out there right now that are sitting here freaking out because I made some solvent hash. It's legal in Colorado, perfectly legal for me to make it. So, I don't know why you would be freaking out. Maybe you think I'd blow myself up or something. If you're in California, I understand. It's illegal in California to make the solvent hash. But, dude, if I had the patience, number one, and had the just ability that you have, I would be making bubble hash myself, too. When you said earlier that you take, up to 8 hours to do your thing, man, I don't want you to give away anything that you don't want to give away.
I'd love to give away as many secrets. In fact, I actually wanted to clarify real quick. I call my hash a water hash or an ice extraction rather than, quote, bubble hash, just because bubble hash is really a patented name for the process using bubble bags.
Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. There's a lot of question out there
That's
about
a good point.
The names and everything, and it's so subjective.
You know who else? Really argues that, and I'm not comparing you to him in any other way at all. And I somehow wanted Do you get his name in this conversation?
No.
You already know what I'm going to say. Joe Pietri. He'll point that out to you very, very, very clearly.
Yeah, I hope they don't compare me to Joseph Pietri.
No, not at all.
Very knowledgeable fellow, but not
anybody
going about
who's
it the
in
right
the
way.
know. For people that don't know, I am not. Okay, I am not comparing him to him. And for people that are in the know, they're like laughing their ass off right now. That guy banned me a long time ago, so we got in an argument about Mark Emery and things he said about him, and I was like booted by like 4 or 5 sentences later. I'd like shut him down. He doesn't like that anyway. But no, we won't go there. That's bad times. That's bad energy, bad vibes. Don't like that. Anyway, this is gonna get back to him, and I'm gonna get like hate mail or something. So let's just move on. The extended process of everything or clarification, whatever you have.
Generally the process isn't going to take quite 7 hours. There are definitely times when it does for the rinsing. The process that I use in my, quote, walk-in freezer, where I like to keep my temperatures below 34 degrees, depending on the trim. I vary it a little bit with the different types and varieties and the different moisture contents.
You're working in a nice 72, 73, maybe even up to 75 degree office space. This dude is working in freezing temperatures. Freezing temperatures to make you happy.
I'm loving it, man. I'm loving life right now. I get to do what I enjoy, and I get to provide a medicine that I can actually promote and agree with. I use a washing machine, first of all. That is my way of commercially using gentle agitation. I used to hand mix quite a bit, and hand mixing is an amazing way to go for agitation. And when I say agitation, I mean mixing so that you can gently break the trichome heads off of the plant matter to collect, and the trichome heads will be your hash. I just like to clarify, there are a lot of people out there that aren't completely familiar with the process.
So so when you're agitating your trichomes, like you say you use the washing machine. Let's see, I don't know if I got you clearly. I was reading some things in the chat room, so maybe I missed it. But you're using the washing machine, you're actually turning it on and using it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm using a washing machine with my ice and water. I actually start with 20 pounds of water, or 20 pounds of ice, sorry. And I fill my washing machine up about 3/4 of the way. I haven't actually measured that amount of water quite yet in the new facility with the new washing machine.
Okay.
But I'm using 20 pounds of ice to start with, and throughout my run, I use up to 50 pounds of ice.
Wow. So just constantly dumping ice in.
Yeah, even though I'm working in a walk-in freezer, the motions of the washing machine, the agitation does warm the water up slightly. So I am still adding about, 5 to 10 pounds of ice every hour or so.
Yeah, and then so people that excuse me here, some people that by the way, that hash is just clean, man. That I smoked, it's just a clean, great high, and that's what you want to get from a hash. It's just a clean, great high, awesomeness. I don't know how else to describe it right now, but anyway, if someone's got like a 5-gallon bucket or smaller, what would you suggest the rate of agitation would be? Because we all can't. I could do the washing machine, but and the Cabbage Patch, but I can't necessarily recreate the washing machine.
Yeah,
itself.
It's going to definitely differ between dry and fresh material, and you're going to definitely it's a trial and error program when you're working with trim that you're not used to or material that you're not used to. But generally speaking, when I'm doing my trial and error on a product that I have not run before, I'll run my first run anywhere from 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes for dry trim. And when it comes to fresh frozen trim, it differs a little bit more. I'm running it anywhere from 6 minutes to 12 minutes for fresh frozen on the.
And are you just absolutely shaking the shiz out of the stick, or what?
For hand mixing, it's when you're using a big paddle, you can't use too much agitation.
Would you suggest
and that's kind of
drill?
The advantage of hand mixing. I would never, ever, ever suggest a drill. In fact, if you ever see that dry, powdery hash, green in color, it's most often made from using a drill. It
And I could
too much power, too much agitation.
And I'll vouch for that, man. Like, because the first time I made hash, I used a drill, and then the first run of the last time I made hash, I used a drill. And you're right, man. And the second time, the second run, I tried it. I'd used the just hand, like I even think it was like a wooden spoon or something. That's like the best that you can use. The metal will slice off a lot of the will slice up a lot of the greens and stuff, and the wood it's a little bit softer. It doesn't won't chop up things necessarily, and it's a little bit more kind to the buds and the green and stuff. So I would highly suggest you just go as old school as you possibly can with this process, and you're gonna end up with the best quality. So and I cannot tell you how much the first time you do this, the first time you ever save your greens. It blows me away. I hear about growers that have done this, that have grown for like 20 years, 15 years, however long they've grown, and they've never saved any of their trim or anything like that. And you're like, what? Like, what? Are you kidding me? And then your jaw just drops open. Like, you're crazy, man. You're crazy.
I also know some, old, like 60, 70-year-old growers that bury their trim and have been burying it for 50 years. So it goes both ways.
Hey, man, at least it's like, no, I know. You probably couldn't use it.
I wouldn't.
You'd have to be in a freezer for a while because that stuff, about a year, out of the freezer is probably your trim would you say, good? I don't know. I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I think the THC is obviously going to start degrading after about a year. Also, one note that I just forgot to mention, I'm talking about my walk-in freezer, and we're talking about freezing the material. If you have dry material, do not freeze it. In fact, I don't keep my dry material. If it's crispy dry, I won't keep it in the freezer section.
Is that why is that?
And that is because if you have completely dry material and you're freezing it before you run it, you'll actually start agitating it before it's even hit the water, and you'll be severing heads before it's hit the water. You'll get a lot more plant matter in your hash because it's breaking up.
I see, because you put it
faster.
You put it in the freezer, you freeze something, that changes the structure of the molecules, the structure of the trichome and everything. It's going to break off
and hardens
freezes.
it. Yeah.
Hardens it, you touch it when it's frozen in the freezer, you move the bags around. It's just what happens. So unfortunately, I did have mine froze, but I didn't make bubble hash necessarily, and it seemed like with there little to no agitation of the butane that gets blasted through the tube and stuff. I don't know. It turned out pretty decent, so I didn't mind it too much. In fact, I don't know. They'll probably get a time here in the next near future that I'll be able to compare from bud and trim. So I think I'm going to make some maybe some A-Train. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We got a call coming in here. We're going to go to this call real quick. Good times. You're on John Doe Radio. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of ask for a little clarification as far as the washing machine. I don't really understand that process.
You don't understand the washing machine process? Oh, wait, we'll start. We'll go for beginning and end on the process. You want to stick on the line, or are you done?
Oh, I don't mind.
We'll stick on the line. You chill here. So, clarify the process for us.
Well, in simplest form, I'm thinking he's even asking about what kind of washing machine. Basically, you can go as easy as they make RV washing machines, 5-gallon RV washing machines you can buy online for these days as cheap as $60 a pop.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would just check Amazon or eBay or any of the other world trade type websites, cleaning supply websites, things of that nature. So as simple as a 5-gallon RV washing machine, it has one spin cycle. It runs for up to 15 minutes. It uses gentle agitation. If you look inside the washing machine, there should just be very small nubs on the bottom of the washing machine, and that's all the agitation you're going to be getting with the ice that you're throwing into the washing machine. I actually use a full-size washing machine. Now, mine is not actually... the one that I'm using right now is not actually made for cannabis or for extraction. It is a large European washing machine. And that's what I'm using right now.
Then the washing machine you get would be You can get any type of... As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law has an appliance business. And I ran some solvent hashes, and I really haven't been happy with the product.
Fair enough. When you're using a regular washing machine, like a real at-home washing machine, I would suggest always using a brand new one. First things first, just because there's can always be soap residue and other residues in an older washing machine.
Who knows what else,
all kinds of stuff. So always use a brand new one. There's going to be a few little tricks to do. You can actually find blueprints for turning a regular at-home washing machine into a gentle agitating hash washing machine online. But basically, you're going to want to tilt it up on its side so that you can collect more of the hash water. You're not losing as much. And you will probably have to retrofit a type of gravity pump system where you can drain the water out of the bottom of your washing machine into your buckets. And now when we're talking about a large...
agitating only in the washing machine.
Yeah, only agitation. Our extraction bags or whatever other filtration devices you're going to be using are not going to be in the washing machine themselves. The washing machine is just for the agitation process, and then it is transferred into what other orifice that
you're not putting the bags inside the actual washing machine?
No. However, we do use...
You have me throw for a loop.
What's that?
Yeah, well, that's because that's maybe what all of us were picturing, because we're used to that bubble bag system, and I think there is bubble bag systems that do go into the washing machine, correct? And
not necessarily. No, it's just kind of a...
Because I've never done I've never seen washing machine action done.
Bubble Man sells a washing machine for gentle agitation for his bubble bags. There's a few companies that sell them, and it's just the agitation. In fact, there's actually a pyramid bag or a barrel bag. There's a few different types of zipped closure bags that I actually put my plant matter or my bud in, which go into the washing machine. Now, that bag is a 220 micron bag. 220 micron
keep your washing machine clean, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Keep it dang clean. So, when you're draining out you drain the water out into the bags?
Yeah, in the simplest form, water extraction via silkscreen bags. I'm using agitation in my washing machine, and I'm draining into a series of bags. And that's just the start of the process. There's a lot of important steps to take in the drying, the curing, and if a lower quality, the pressing and decarboxylation.
I've really stayed away from the bubble bags because I've known a lot of people that have tried them, and they put their plant matter right into the bag, and the next thing you know, they got like this sappy mess for a week.
Yeah,
I really understand what you're saying about keeping it clean, running it through clean, you get a better product, I'm sure.
Yeah, and also, even bubble bags suggest that you now do your agitation in a separate container and then pour into the bubble bags.
That's interesting, man.
You can do it by hand in a separate 5-gallon container with your wooden paddle.
That's mind-blowing to some people right here.
And then pour it into the bags. That way you're not ruining your 220 micron bag at the top of your bubble bag
set. Makes a lot of sense. That happens a lot. I know a lot of people that are just ripped apart, like even the bags I used, and a friend of a friend of a friend that listens to the show, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, his bags, when he came to town, they just looked a little rough, It was a few other people that I've seen, their bags looked rough. There's been patches in the bottom stuff,
no
and that's
patches. I go through bags quick. I get new ones.
Yeah,
but,
and that's hugely mind blowing, man. Don't agitate in the bubble bags. Wow.
Also, one of the greater points I saw that you mentioned was the cleanliness. It's a huge factor in this. Any particulate that gets into the extract, the concentrate, the hash, is going to make it less pure. Anything. The dust in your environment, the hair from your dog, anything. I really stress working in a completely sterile environment. That's why I'm really happy to be working in a commercial facility where everything is stainless steel.
Yeah, that's
very
important.
Easy to clean.
It is, because you can't get hash in somebody's house without having some sort of contaminants in it. You got to try to not get contaminants in hash. It's just hard.
One of those. It's another variable.
You got to start with really good trim and bud and stuff. So,
and the more you control those variables, the better your product will be.
You got anything else for us, man?
I just had one quick question about what you had to say about CO2 extraction.
Lately, I've been seeing some interesting things when it comes to what people are calling CO2. Originally in California, where I'm from, I tried some CO2 extracts that I was very fond of. They were clean tasting. They had terpenes present. They had a great golden shard appearance. And I was happy. It's been a minute since I've seen some of that, so I'm not too familiar.
I saw
with
some.
the local.
We've both seen something recently. We won't call it out. We won't say.
Yeah, I'm not going to say where it's from, but I have seen some black CO2 oil.
What?
People are calling some black oil CO2.
I don't think it was.
And I was later told that they were actually putting either butane or propane up to 38% in there and still calling it CO2. So there's some scary things out there when it comes to solvents. So I just personally stay away from the solvents. I have seen some nice products.
All right, cool.
from
Actually,
CO2.
let's clarify for every listener. Water is definitely a solvent. It's just very clean solvent.
Well, like, I mean, we don't mean solvents in like that. It's not a chemical solvent.
Clarify.
Yeah, it's not a chemical solvent though. We're talking about like stuff that's like literally.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Chemically altering the trichome.
It's definitely an arguable point. When we're not legally speaking, when I do this process, it's not actually an extraction. It's not an extraction, and I'm not using any solvents.
And California, you can't it's their solvent is defined.
I
as,
understand that. I'll just leave that alone.
No, that's cool. It's cool.
Water, though, I fully understand.
Water
is
is
a good
not
point to make
because water is not sieve. Like you could have sieve hash, and I mean that's like the ultimate solventless hash, I guess.
Definitely,
it's a dry sieve. So I mean, you're right. I hear you. Cool, man. Do you got anything else?
Hey.
Go ahead.
No, thanks for having me on again, guys.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for the
call. So have a great day, dude.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Good times on John Doe Radio. I have a few more questions to get through here, but I kind of want to stay on the same track here. So is there any specific type of products that you specifically recommend people go and get? We already talked about the RV washer, and you can Google online, I'm sure, and find that somewhere. What are some other maybe product names or whatever that you get?
A very solid product that I like to support is the Pyramid bag, or the Zipcro bag as they've branded it, and this is from Aqualab Technologies.
Okay.
A nice company that I support. I rarely have to buy anything for my process online, which is another nice feature of this process. It's fairly easy to manage.
But is that because we just live in a wonderland of sorts here in Colorado, or is that
no? It's
why
because
is that?
It's because the products last. I'm not having to run through cans of butane every week.
Okay.
I'm just using ice and water.
You buy it once, and it's regularly found products around you. It's not really any super specialty items.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Nice that you can do it at home for the patient. And that's really what I stress as well. When I teach my seminars, I teach them so that the patients themselves can produce their own cannabis extract at home.
And what was that? What was the name of the bags product thing?
The bags are called Zipcro bags. It's a pyramid bag that goes inside your washing machine, and you can buy them on aqualabtechnologies.com.
Okay. Cool. And so let's go from here. We left off. So you're agitating this. You're putting a bunch of your trim, bud, whatever it is, and then you agitate it. How long you say that you're go through that process from where you're putting it in, you get it agitated, to the first pouring and filtering? How long is that, and what's the detail of that?
Definitely, and I guess I'll just use an example. I'll start with a type of trim, a popular type, say the NYC Diesel. I get from one of our centers. It is a very gooey, fresh, frozen trim. In fact, when scoping this material before the process, the stalks almost merge into the heads.
Wow.
It's a little rare to find material like this, but when getting it consistently, it helps for a nice, gooey, consistent end product.
That tastes that's mouth watering. Sorry.
So some of these trichomes literally the stalks are thick, and oftentimes I'm able to collect both the stalk and the head to make an oil.
Fantastic.
And when agitating this stuff, I actually do quite a bit longer of an agitation than some other stuff, but it's also a solid frozen goo rock. I fit about a pound into almost a handful. And that's one of the secrets for the gentle agitation. I'm really only grabbing the outside trikes on my first run, not getting too much in the interior of the bag yet. And I'm running that first run of that solid frozen rock for about 9 minutes, to be honest.
Okay.
Of the fresh frozen, and collecting some really nice just heads in my 90 bag, some stocks in the 38. Nice separation.
Okay.
Nice full melt through 5 bags, actually, on some of that product.
Let's go to the phone here real quick. I got a question about how long it takes you to filter them here too. But all right, you're on John Doe Radio Live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dredd.
Hey, what up, Dredd?
Not a whole lot.
This is Sean from North.
What's up, Nick?
This is Sean from South Carolina. I almost said North Carolina. I don't know why. I don't know. I wish you were from North Carolina.
I always say North Carolina, dude. I don't know what it is with that.
Every time. I wish you were from North Carolina is what it is. Sorry.
I wish I was from Denver.
You need to be from Denver, fool. We have this conversation every week. You got to figure something out. I'm gonna tell everybody what I tell Dredd is all the time, man. You got to be somewhere where you can be happy, man. Period. End of story. And if you're not somewhere where you're going to be happy, you really run the chance of ruining your life, whether it's because of happiness or if we're because of cannabis. Running into a situation maybe with the police. If you can stay there, you like where it is. I say fight for yourself. Fight there where you are. But if you don't like where you are, you don't want to get involved necessarily in a lot of activism. You don't want to be that person, that martyr. Get somewhere where it's comfortable. Period. End of story. That's all it takes, man. And I tell that to him. I tell that to everybody else. Quit your whining and get here.
By the time it happened here, man, they just legalized tattoos like 4 years ago.
Exactly. Wah, 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 wah. That's what I hear until I hear. I got my plane ticket and the U-Haul to Denver is coming. Go ahead, dude.
You'll be hearing that. I'm telling you, that's coming, dude. It's a process. But hey, here's why I called in is Nick, I wanted to let you know what my process is a little bit, and I wanted to see if maybe you could critique me and maybe give me a couple pointers on what I'm doing wrong and what I could be doing better.
Definitely, yeah, I can help with that.
All right, real quick, what I do is I got a 5-gallon bubble bag set up, and I was using a drill. Obviously, I just heard what you were saying, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I layer it, once I layer the bags in, I'll put a layer of ice, then a layer of trim, then a layer of ice, then a layer of trim, then a layer of ice. Then I'll go ahead and put 3 gallons of water in. I use one, like you said, 1 bag of ice for a 5-gallon setup. 3 gallons of water. Then I'll mix it for 15 minutes, let it sit for 30, and then strain it. So what do you think? Well, what should I be doing differently?
Well, first of all, you're mixing in your bubble bags themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just mentioned that you're going to get a longer life out of your bubble bags, and it's actually going to be a little bit less agitation because it's not going to be rubbing against the bottom of that 220 bag if you're agitating in a separate container.
So would you recommend just buying another 5-gallon bucket?
Oh, yes. Yeah, another 5-gallon bucket.
The first bag, the 220 micron, actually does have a tiny little hole in the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So from stems catching and stuff like that, and I try to pull all the stems out, but obviously,
that one's done. Toss it.
It's done just with that little hole.
Yeah, toss it, get another one, because when you get product that is going to produce well in your 120, you won't be producing well in your 120. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll be getting particle. You'll be getting particle from your 220 into whatever bag you have below your 220, whether it be a 160 or your 120, or your 180 or your 190 or your 100.
Gotcha.
Okay. But from there, so I'd buy a separate 5-gallon container. I'd go from drill mixing to hand mixing, and the ratio I just heard, I have a feeling that your temperatures are going to be a bit high. With 3 gallons of water to 1 bag of ice in a 5-gallon setup, it's going to be a little bit too much water to to keep your temperatures below 34 degrees.
Around like 39 degrees or so. Should I have it even lower than that?
Yeah, with most trim material, with most moisture content trim material, I would definitely keep it below 35 degrees Fahrenheit. When you're reaching 40, you're going to grab a lot more of the of not only the chlorophyll but plant matter as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between 34, 35 degrees even, and like that the 1, 2, 3 degree difference in that 30 to 40 degree range is huge when it comes down to something being a solid and between being a gel, like glycerin-y almost, like that's a...
Temperature is a huge
my experience
variable.
is just like what he said earlier. Mine is dry, it's powdery, you know what I mean? It powders up.
Because you're using that drill.
It's not green, it's blonde, but I mean, it's definitely not what I'm seeing elsewhere, you know what I mean? And I know it can be better because I know the materials are great materials.
And that's what the difference is between someone like yourself, someone like me, and someone like Nick. I mean, it takes a lot of time. It takes gallons and gallons and gallons and just pounds of trim to get through this process and know exactly what you're doing, to eyeball it, to take the time. And a lot of it is probably, and Nick will probably agree with this, is extreme patience.
And like I've said before, controlling the variables. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And, the first couple years I was doing it, I was getting the same type of stuff, powdery blonde hash, and and sometimes powdery blonde hash is amazing. I'm not discounting powdery blonde hash. Just oftentimes for the sale, for the marketing, people like to see that gooey amber colored looking.
Yeah,
because they want that FMCD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there's some powdery blonde stuff that definitely full melts.
It's good.
It just depends on what type of strain you're using.
Last night I saw this thing online that said, what was it, man? And I should have known this, and I should know it right now. It's all good bubble hash melts, but not all melt bubbles. Like, I don't know, it's an interesting topic, and that's the amount of oxygen. What makes it bubble is the oxygenation. I think that's what the word you're looking for, off of the your goodness coming off and then catching, and then bubbling. Anyway, I don't know. I read this thing online, and that's all I have off of that. So.
Well, I'm going to hang up and listen, guys. Nick, I appreciate, the little hints. And, hey, one more thing. As far as mixing, the 15 to 30 ratio, mix for 15, let it sit for 30. You think I'm all right with that?
Yeah, and you may want to differ that when you're talking about drier compared to fresher trim, but generally speaking, that's a fairly good ratio. I even do sometimes 3 to 4 runs of the same material, whereas most people would just do one run.
I do 2 usually.
Yeah, and another little trick, oftentimes I'll play around. There's some materials where I'll warm the temperatures up to 36 degrees and run a 5th run or something, and I'll get some black oil. It just depends on what you're using.
I don't think I'm going to smoke black oil anymore. I don't think I'm smoking anything that's black anymore. Period. End of story. Like, I'm done with those days, man. Anything resin, this oil that's sort of blackish, and I know there's people out there that are going to say they make good, some more blacker oil, and I'm not, and I'm not even including Phoenix Tears actually in this, because Phoenix Tears are a different story. Those are sort of, I don't know, man. I don't know. My head is so confused about hash lately, man. Dude, the things you have taught me and the things I have found out from you lately, you have blown my mind, and I cannot trust what I know about hash.
I feel like I haven't even gotten into it yet.
I feel like we haven't either, man. Less than a year ago, we had nothing here in Colorado. We had absolutely we had hash that was like rock hard crap. That was like you could barely even get that thing to break up, much less smoke it. And when you finally did, you ended up feeling like you had smashed your head into a brick wall. Basically, is what it was. And then as the time,
whole lot of plant matter,
a whole lot of plant matter going on. Anyway, the process over the past year has been just incredible, man. We saw that huge explosion which triggered 1284 and all the regulations and rules that we've seen and talked about here on the show over the past 9, 10, 11, 12 months. this huge boom that we saw a bunch of, California type hash come out, and all the excess, I think, from California, because the prices were a little bit, they could get a little bit more here. And then that started to be shunned slightly, and people started to make their own hash to start coming out of the woodwork. So we saw that lesser of the quality, and that started getting a little bit better bubble, and all of a sudden, boom, we saw the solvents. California couldn't make solvents. It's extremely hard to find some solvents in California. Now, some people are going to argue with me, bullshit. Yeah, right. You can't go to a dispensary and buy solvent hash. It's illegal to make solvent hash in California. So, all of a sudden here, we saw this weird highlight of this solvent-made hash, like wax, really different variations of wax is what I'm kind of talking about.
Oil,
the yellows, we saw the blacks, and the honey oil. I bought one time this incredible oil that I absolutely loved. I think it was like CO2 oil, just honey, literally honey. You could whip it as much as you wanted, and it wouldn't turn into a waxy type thing, kind of like the wax I've been showing here for the past couple of days. It just was honey-like, and from that point on, when I saw that, it was just this weird unlocking of the gates of hashdom, weirdness, like different qualities of waxes. People started actually using specific strains and specific trim to make their hash with, which is something that people have seen in Amsterdam and overseas a lot more of. People say, we may have better bud at certain times, but they've killed us on hash for years, sieve, whatever it is. So that's kind of what the past year here we've seen. So we're sort of from beginning to end, and now I hope everybody takes example of what you're kind of running with. And I also got to give out a shout out. There's these dudes that have gone around at a few like the hash bashes and stuff and handed out just absolutely clear blonde cement like hash, man. It's like amazing bubble hash, but it's nothing like the solventless awesome extract hash that you do, dude. So that's, I don't know if you can comment on any of that. It's crazy. I got a hash falling off my thing over here. Avalanche of hash.
Give thanks, man. Give thanks. Another little thing.
Dred, you still there, by the way? Sorry to interrupt you. It sounds like Dred dropped off. Oh, he's still here. All right, go ahead, man.
Another little thing that I wanted to mention, you mentioned that you had a honey oil that stayed in an oil form. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes that has to do with the strain. I really want to stress that so many of these things are strain specific, grow medium specific even. The
grow mediums.
Yeah. There's oftentimes strains that won't butter up or won't, quote, whip up. Some strains, when you make a solvent extract, will immediately whip up. Without even using any whipping motion. It'll just butter up immediately. So it's really strain specific. And so Tim was mentioning that he had some oil that didn't butter up even when he whipped it. And that would be something that I would think would be strain specific and oftentimes a very good thing.
That's pretty incredible, man. The weirdness of us all is literally, man, you have blown away my knowledge of hash and what I thought I knew about hash. And that's what's crazy is a lot of us, the things we're getting online and the techniques we're using are old school techniques. A lot of them are techniques that are just the easiest way to get things done, not necessarily the best way to get things done. And that's been widely spread out there. And with this explosion of whatever it is here in Colorado, California, Oregon, everywhere across the nation, Montana, this information is easily spreadable because of that, and then also too because of really how open the internet's got and open communication. 3, we also feel comfortable giving this information out now with finally. The process of legal cannabis. It's like, dude, you can now, if say somebody in Montana wanted your services and wanted to bring you there, and people are going to hate me for this, grow your own, do grassroots. I'm not saying that whatever, but we're all Americans. So we all can bring our ideas to each other. So if somebody wanted to bring you out to Montana and have you work for them there, do something for them there, you could do that. You're a legal patient in Montana. You're a legal patient in Rhode Island. Work for whoever it is that allows it. I think any state besides Colorado will allow you to work. Here coming between March and July, you're not going to be allowed to possibly work in a dispensary. Definitely not own a dispensary unless you've lived here for 2 years. So, but other than that, that's the cool thing about all this is that we're going to start seeing, I think, people like yourself who are specialists in this whole thing. We already have seen a lot of specialists in cannabis, but there's these new techniques and new styles. I talked about the changing of the guard before of like activists, and when it comes to the 60s, 70s type, hippie type activists, they're still there and valid, but there's this younger generation that's feeling extremely empowered, and is going to step up and is going to be those politicians. Cannabis is going to become that mainstream issue, that it's not going to just be this certain niche of people. Those regular everyday Joes, those candidates are going to have to answer those questions. They're going to become the ones that normalize this whole thing out, even though we've got them to this point and we've done that huge work. That's the catalyst, though, is all the combination of everything. But with that comes people like yourself. I got to go turn the heat off, man. You and Dredd can talk here for a second. I'm sweating.
Yeah, so another point that Tim mentioned, what was I getting at? Dredd, talk to me.
All right, man. Well, you said you were running a 32-gallon setup, right?
Yeah, I'm running about a 32-gallon setup, yes.
So how much trim, I'm using for my 5-gallon setup, I'm using probably about maybe a quarter pound of trim for that. What do you recommend as far as for the gallon, how big your bags are for how much trim you should be using?
Yeah, perfect. For your 5-gallon setup, are you running dry trim or fresh frozen?
It's frozen. It was frozen, but another thing I just learned from you is that I don't run it fresh, and I was taking it home and then freezing it, so it's actually sat out dried and then was frozen. So I guess from now on I should just go ahead and run it dry. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, run it dry if it's going to be dry. If you're able to trim it off the plant live, then definitely run it fresh frozen. But if you're trimming dry, leave it dry. Don't put it in the freezer. In fact, put it in your refrigerator. If you can keep it at about between 39 and 42 degrees Fahrenheit, that's preferable for something that's dry.
Okay, so if I'm trimming the plants while they're dry, the plants are already dried out, right? They hung up, they dry, then I go ahead and trim them. You're saying don't take that material and freeze it. Just go ahead and use that as it is. Yep.
Okay.
And some people are like, what are you talking about? Like, you dry trim? Like, what? They don't even know what you're talking about, man. And that's something I didn't even know of until the middle of this year. Yeah, man. Here's what you do to do dry trim, and it works great. The only thing is that you need to think about what you're going to use your byproduct for, just like what we're talking about right now. So if you want to use really great trim for really great bubble hash, you need to trim it when it's wet. So don't do this. When you get your plants, first of all, you chop them off when it's dark. I kid you not, there's a huge difference between chopping your plants when it's dark and then when the light comes on. There's a lot of those, the heavier stuff that it sends down during the night. And a lot of those, what are they, the starches and other things. I forgot the specifics of the names of stuff. But anyway, that are brought up from the soil and the roots when the light comes on. So you want to chop it when the light's off. So, and anyway, the plant's trying to protect itself the colder it is. So it's going to resonate itself more. And there's more specifics, and that's going over the top of it. But anyway, you chop that off. When it's dark, you bring that inside. You bring it in wherever you're going to do your trim at, and hang it. That's what I do. And then you pick off all the fan leaves. You may want to make sure that you get all the fan leaves off, because what'll happen is as the plant's drying out, it's going to start pulling things from the leaves inside to try and save the plant. The plant's going to try and save itself. So it'll pull some of that chlorophyll and the other matter in with it, and you don't want those leaves, because that's what a lot of they have is chlorophyll. And plant's going to pull that in. It's going to ruin the taste a little bit more. That's really when you do the dry trim. That's one of the biggest things I would say is a difference that it makes. You got to get those fan leaves off before it dries. because it will make a difference. Just number one, the drying process alone, and then when it's drying and it's encased in those leaves, whatever it is, when you like go outside and you rake up the leaves or whatever and you jump in them, or a couple days later you just have that stale smell of leaves. It's that gross, I don't know, weird plant drying smell. That will absorb into the buds and you will get a bad taste. I mean, this is just from my experience and what I'm kind of bringing to you guys. So get those fan leaves off there. These sugar leaves don't really matter too much. It's not a big deal. You just want to get as much material as you can that's not covered in those nice, lovely trichomes as possibly can. So, and then when it dries out, hang it up to dry wherever it is you dry, dark, dry, not like hot place. So it's, in the wintertime, it's hard to find a place to dry that off. In Colorado, it's hard to dry in the summer because it dries so fast, and you don't want it to dry in like 2-3 days, and that's what it can do if you don't have a special spot for it. And even during the wintertime, yeah, what's that?
Even the winter, yeah.
Yeah, even the wintertime.
You can get that flash dry.
Because it's so dry in the wintertime, too, and then if you stick it somewhere where you got like heat on or something like that, you want to make sure you block a vent, because that heat coming in is going to even dry it out even more, so... The slower you can actually do this process, do the drying process without getting mold, whatever, then you're good to go. Luckily here in Colorado, we don't have to worry about mold too much because we don't have that high humidity that it'll condensate or we don't have that problem. Thank goodness. Some people create that problem for themselves. You still got to have good air movement. I highly suggest having the airflow still going through that. But anyway, once it's done drying, you have those sugar leaves that maybe they kind of come up against the bud sometimes. So number one, it's protecting your bud until you're ready to trim it, even though during the process you're kind of scraping. So I guess I should just shut up. Really, it's not the insane connoisseur way to do things, but it's a quicker way. It's not as slow as doing the wet trim. With the wet trim, you're sitting there and you're actually having to trim everything off. You got to have good sharp scissors. With this, man, you don't even have to have scissors. Like, seriously enough, if you get it to where you got the point where you're you really should trim it right before it gets to that point where it's too crispy. But usually, what's that?
Yeah, let me stress something about the no scissors, because I've had friends in the past that do the whole snapping off the leaves, the sugar leaves. And for extract making, if you're really concerned about your end product of the extract, you really are going to want to use scissors, and you're going to want to trim just a little bit before it really gets to that point of snapping.
Because you're going to get all crunchy and stuff. That's the main thing.
You're going to really, pre-agitate your material.
Yeah, because that crunchiness that you get. But that's what I say with people. You don't even... really, if that's what you're worried about, then you got to do it when it's wet. You just got to do it when it's wet. Period. End of story. So I made awesome extract from butane, and some people are gonna be like, "What? How do you even get that?" I'm still up in the air about whether or not I'm a fan of butane or not. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think eventually we're gonna move from butane. I don't think it's gonna be something that's gonna be involved too much longer. I just wanted to make sure that I learned the process and I knew what I was talking about when it came to certain things. So I want to learn and be a part of everything that I can in order to bring it to, these people. That was a big main reason why I did it. So, but
I'm a fan of butane hash, but when you got bubble hash as a quality of mix and it looks better than this butane hash that's going around, I mean, why not go with the all-natural ice and water when it's going to be better?
But if you can't get that,
better,
smells
better.
If you can't get that, it's
make it.
Yeah, make it yourself, number one. But even if you can't make it, man, some people, will go with. That's why kind of that BHO is so popular, is because it's so easy to kind of get done. And, but I agree with you 100%. And honestly, his stuff looks better than... knowing what I know about the two hashes, you can look at it and you're like, that's the solventless and that's the solvent. They both look incredibly resinous, and you'll be like, the solventless, I think this is way 10 times better. So I agree with you, dude. There's no doubt about it. What's that black? A big thing that was going online here the past couple of weeks was the black sin. Now it was tell us about that. Was that Cinderella 99?
You know, it was a combination of
'Cause I would smoke that
three
black.
things that I used to create the black sin, and that's kind of where the artist factor comes in, is combining certain things. Generally speaking, I like to use just one strain per extract, but there's some times when certain strain combinations create an amazing end product. The black sin happened to be Black Hash Plant, Cindy 99, and NYC Diesel. That's where the Y came in, the black sin.
Wow. And it was just, oh man, incredible. I got to smoke some of that, a little bit of that. Wow, dude. You had some other stuff too here recently that looked like, oh, well, let me get to this question real fast. Perps, NorCal, you still there? Is NorCal still in here? He's probably going to be ticked. He probably got ticked and left. Let me see. I want to see if he's still in this chat room.
He's in here.
He's still in here? All right, anyway. He probably thought I forgot his question and stuff. I was just waiting for
He's always here.
I was forgetting. I was waiting to get to a good moment to ask it. And since we're talking about the differences and all that, here's something that he asked. Now, I'm curious about this too, because I don't know necessarily if this is possible, but how do you get a bubble hash to turn into a wax? Is that, I mean, that's kind of a contradiction, right?
Well, basically, you know, in the
Explain
simplest form,
NorCal.
It's so subjective. It's all about verbiage. I don't actually make bubble hash. I make a water extraction. Same type of thing.
Because the bubble hash is like what? Because of the name is
it's
like
just,
that bubble bag is made. Bubble hash is made from bubble bags. Specific type. Is that what you're talking about?
It's gotten a little bit more general than that. People all over the world call water extraction bubble hash. I just prefer to distinguish mine a little bit more.
You have that right, man, and you are a pioneer that will set a standard. So you know what? If you feel that should be it, we have that privilege, and that's the great thing about all this, man. That's why I want to get another reason. Don't get lost there, because I might go off here for a minute. I hope I'm not going to make it long. One of the reasons why I do what I do and why I say that this has become not only, you know, it's my voice, but it's the listener show, because what we do here will set standards for people in the future. No matter how much we try to avoid it, if we keep doing what we're doing, we will set those standards, and we will be that. Because, you know, whether I know we have that excellence in us, so it can only go to that point. And whether or not we set it, we will certainly set the pedestal for someone else to get there. And I believe that deep down in the deepest part of my body and the deepest part of my heart, that we are a part of that right now. And it's pretty cool, man. So, I mean, that's what you say means weight, gold in the minds of many, dude. I'm surprised at how many people listen to this show that, not that other people don't matter, but the people in this industry that really, like, try to make changes. I don't know. It's crazy. I find out every day that there's crazy stuff listening. Go on, and I'll quit blabbering.
So,
Jesus, shut up, Tim.
No, sorry, refresh my memory a little bit. What were we talking about?
What were we talking about, Dredd? That's your job.
All right, dude. No, here's what we were talking about this before you jumped back on after doing the heat. Where were we at as far as with the amount of trim, like for a 5-gallon setup or a 32-gallon setup? Like, how much trim are you using?
Yeah. Real quick, we'll just touch on that. So, if you're using dry trim like you had mentioned, I wouldn't use any more than a QP of dry trim in your 5-gallon setup. When we're talking larger setups, like my 32-gallon, when I'm working with dry trim, I don't use any more than 3/4 of a pound. No more than 3/4 of a pound with dry trim. When it comes to fresh trim, I can use up to 7 pounds in my 32-gallon, and up to a full 1.5 pounds in the 5-gallon system. But that's depending on the type of trim.
That's beautiful, man. And I'll tell you right now, I knew, even before I knew how to make hash or have done hash myself, I knew that doing smaller amounts at a time is the best way to go. And, you know, as a small, very, very, very small grower, I think a 1-gallon setup for a lot of people is a great idea. Say you're going to go with a bubble bag, and that's what you decide to go on, and or something, man. I don't know. That's as small as I can think of to get, or whatever. You know, it's the 1
pretty
gallon.
Much the smallest they make is a 1 gallon. I would kind of suggest against it because if you're using a very small amount of material in a very small container, your agitation is going to be heavier. I would suggest
so go with a bigger bag, but use the same amount that you were going to use maybe in the 1 gallon.
Exactly.
That's a great idea. That is fantastic. That's why you were sitting here right now. You are the man. Awesome. You got anything else, Dredd?
No, that's it, man. I'll hang up and listen.
All right. You can stick on if you want. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If you would like to talk to the man himself, selected Nikka T. In a minute here, we'll talk about maybe some DJing and stuff. That's what I almost forgot about that. I don't want to forget about that. We could change the topic a little bit, talk a little bit about the culture for a second here, but I got a few more questions we can get through.
We didn't even answer one. We had one more I was about to answer, I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't remember.
I got to get a different set of headphones, ones that are noise resistant on. These are so cheap.
I smoke too much hash. I have no memory.
Like, you can listen. How to turn a bubble hash into a wax ball.
That was a question. Yes.
We were talking about that. What was the ultimate final rig on that?
So much of it is verbiage. Wax is a verbiage. Basically, like I was saying, I don't make a bubble hash. I make a water extraction. And another thing I was going to touch on is the reason I say that is just there's so much stuff going on in the industries right now with patents and everything else. I just want to be general. I use ice and water. I don't actually use bubble brand bags or bubble bag brand bags.
Bubble bag. Yeah. It's like, took over my job there for a second and be in the see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But changing, getting a water extraction to wax up has a lot.
Or Derek's calling. Derek Cummings is calling. Jesus, that was ridiculous there. Just talking with Selecta Nikka T here on
Selecta Nikka T.
Talking about some hash action. So we keep.
Are you still on JDR Daily?
Yeah. We're going live. I think we're going to go live till 2. We're going to turn these Tuesdays into the 3-hour show. I think that's what I have yet to run it by you, but I think that might be a good idea. Do a 3-hour show. You stop in when you can and whatever. Is that a yay?
That's you know how the fuck I feel about live radio.
Yeah. Well,
that's funny, as that is ironically just demonstrated right there.
No, but you know you're live, right? You know you're live.
Well, I didn't even think about it.
Oh, okay. Well, you're live on John Radio.
I was just calling, actually. I'm in my shop in Boulder working my ass off still, and I was just trying to find out what we were doing for the weekly recorded show with music and produced.
Okay, yeah, we could still do that. We can still do that.
I didn't realize that was such an unwanted thing.
No, it's not an unwanted thing.
That way, or if I was just going to sit in my car and Skype with you. But I will let you guys talk about that beautiful solventless.
We would, if you have anything to add, the people would love to hear you talk about some hash or have questions that you have. So there are
any good hash.
What's that?
I've never made good hash in my life. It's whack. Everything I make's whack.
You had that sieve that one time hash, man. Bring that into there. You made this sieve hash this one time that was absolutely. I don't know if you made it or you got it, but.
Oh yeah, I've got old school. I turned my silkscreen machine into basically old school. I read about some Afghani beat the cannabis plant on the screen and set up the screens underneath, dude. And I made my own little ghetto version. And you truly get the earth. We used outdoor plants, and you end up with one of the most extremely misinterpreted points of hash, I believe, right now is the higher the THC content, the better. That's excellent for some things, but we're dealing with something that has roots that go back thousands of years. And if we were to say, dude, why the hell would anybody ever drink wine, beer, anything like that? You can just drink Everclear now. We've developed a way to do this. Is a foolish mistake for people. You're missing some of the most valuable aspects of hash if all you think about, and even more so with raw cannabis. Because right now we're getting into a time and age when all people care about are what's your THC level? What's the percentage? And I can affirm again that my top 3, I've never seen my top 3 meds ever test out higher than 20%, ever. You know, and some of those old earthy hashes, they taste like that because you're getting the plant, you know, all this other matter through there that is more earthy. It's less pure hash, but some of those things are, you know, you're never going to taste like, if you get some, if you know, you come across some Afghani or some Lebanese blonde or something, that's going to be pretty low, I would venture to guess, if you were to test it as far as its potency, or the percentage of THC. That doesn't mean that it's not delicious or something that could be, you know, a delicacy to somebody that's looking for that. You know, it's just a good point. We're never going to see that hash in America because we're not going through those growing pains necessarily. So we're never going to have a hash that's that dirty, you know, but that, like, as far as like everybody that's, you know, been smoking hashish for 20 plus years, you know, I'm not even in that category, but people that have been smoking that long, they know where it's come from, because the development in water extraction, ice extraction, all these are fairly recent developments in the hashish world. And we're talking about a world that is thousands and thousands of years old in places like Turkey and Istanbul and all these crazy places Nepal, where they've been making hash in Afghanistan for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
They, for some reason, never went past that process of development where, you know, like, obviously it was doing the trick for them because they never had any desire.
Yeah. Well, when you see
or
like
ability, or maybe it was technology, whatever it was, but they did them well for that long, and, you know, I don't think that they're complaining.
When you see on Strain Hunters, and like Strain Hunters was where this was made, like, extremely clear to me of, you know, how hash is made in different places. When you see how they make the hash, you know, I mean, they grab the stalk or the bud or whatever, just run their hands up it and go down like 4 or 5 plants, and then just sit down and, like, take their 2 fingers or whatever and just rub it, like, and then take all that hash that they've got off.
Take their skin.
Yeah, it takes everything with it. Yeah, that's what the crazy thing is. And they're not like let's go wash our hands before, you know, after we've buried on this other. Anyway,
if they wash their hands, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't come off.
You have to have the oil on your fingers in order to make that work.
Exactly.
But it's amazing how much they get from it, though. That's probably why they're like, oh, screw it, I don't care.
Well, it's like I said, there's simpler times in an extremely recent history that a lot of people have a tendency to completely. Our culture is one, like, you know, I don't even know of a similar culture to reference right now, but there's so many people that are going to be jumping into this without any sort of knowledge or respect necessarily for how it got here. And,
I've seen that all over.
You know, like the internet has done with real culture, legalization and the proliferation of more regulated and recognized cannabis will also kind of generalize what needs to be known, you know? Yeah. Why would somebody ever learn about that kind of hash that they're never ever going to have, or they're never ever going to make, when they can just easily, you know, especially now, you know, even I'm talking a short time, like 2 or 3 years ago. In the past 2 or 3 years, I mean, somebody can go on YouTube and you can just simply how to make hash YouTube and learn more in one sitting of YouTube than I learned in the first 10 years of using cannabis.
Yeah, that's like what we mentioned earlier too, what you just said. The amount of information that you can have. Go ahead, man.
And there's certainly, that's the only saving grace, is there's still people out there that are willing to be pushing the envelope and actually care to be making those changes. You've known me for long enough that I'm proud to have been, before anybody knew what the hell hash oil was, I was already producing what I thought was still what I feel is the best hash oil in you know, is around. And it's funny, the degrees of, you know, like some people like this pixie dust or whatever the hell they call it, hash oil, which is basically just letting it sit there and evaporate on its own and turn hard, and you actually lose more on your fingers trying to clean that up than anything else. And then there's the other people that have like a really waxy, you can tell there's still other things in it, whether it be the butane or whatever, and there's certain degrees, and I think you've seen for 2 years now, I've never made I guess once or twice depending on the product, but for the past 2 years, usually my hash oil, my solvent or my BHO is a solid. I pull it out like anyone else would pull out a regular piece of wax or a regular piece of hash or bubble, and I show it, bend it, people play with it in their hands, and then I tell them, oh, that's my honey oil. Mm-hmm. So there's just
it's crazy
how people want their product. There's so many different ways, because some people will insist that when I show them that hard honey oil, that their earwax is the better product, or that dust is a better product, or that, and it's all pretty much the same product.
All subjective. It's just purged differently or sprayed differently. It's all the same exact thing.
We froze it. We froze some of this stuff earlier, and I'd never seen like any of this stuff frozen, and it looks completely different. It's like wow, like it's all the same, but then everybody has these weird, funky names for everything now.
And it's because there's no. It's not like we could get. I mean, if we could have got this coalition together before Facebook, if we could have got that extract artist page together as a group maybe 5 years ago, maybe there would be some sort of standard as what we called hash, and the different, like at some point, I actually, one person had a real nice post on there the other day that was kind of like a breakdown of the categorization of at what point you should be calling it what. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many and so much misinformation and danger out there. I think myself of anybody else, people ask me about like specifically BHO, solvent, different, the tiers, anything with a solvent, which I love you, Selecta, but you got to have a lot of patience to be able to blow nothing but water.
I've been telling people you got to have patience like crazy all day, and like you have no idea. People have no idea.
It turns into meditation. It turns into an art form for me. I'm in my freezer and I'm smoking my spliffs, listening to my music, and it's art.
That's beautiful. Yep. So. It is too. It's art, man. Go ahead, man.
But you have it when done correctly. I mean, we've been using it's the way people demonize solvents, and I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but the way people demonize solvents and the use of solvents, we're not doing anything new. We're simply in all of human beings, there's always been, solvents, and we just don't necessarily think of them as solvents. But when you're making a white wine reduction, like when you're doing these type of things, you're using chemicals and changing another substance, and then getting rid of the most harmful of those chemicals. So chemistry, I will say this: solvent hash is I will say it's dangerous. I will only categorize that by the amount of people misusing the techniques.
No, very true.
So if everybody were to do it like I'm not trying to say I'm the greatest, but if everybody did it like me, we would never hear about people worries about the dangers or the idiots blowing themselves up in their one-bedroom apartment, or people still ending up with all kinds of solvent in their finished product.
I was just stressing that.
If you have integrity and work hard, you can eliminate those and still have the solvent as your main source of extraction.
What do you, I mean, I don't know what you specifically do or whatever, but like dude, seriously, we decided against making a how-to video on this because we did not want to create a problem with I don't know, I didn't want to see myself on the news being used as an example. Like we got to do this inner circle wise right now. We can't put this stuff on the internet necessarily safely.
I will completely break some John Doe listener hearts right now when I tell you that I have the most extreme, in-depth how-to videos in the planet. But I could not, on clear conscience, put it out there because of how big the internet is and how I knew that it would immediately be misused, my words misconstrued, and people would end up, it would be this incredible positive thing I had would immediately become a negative, and it wasn't worth the risk.
That's why we decided against it, man. Ultimately, it was like we did not have the perfect situation to show people it, and it needs to be that perfect situation.
I've been in the perfect situation. Like I said, I've had that.
And
I
you
have
even
the perfect
feel
situation on tape out in the middle of nowhere, explaining how you have to have a cross breeze. And explaining, and that's only in a, like basically you deal with more harmful things on a daily basis.
I can't
think that you're not eating solvents on a daily.
Oh no, we're all eating it. Hey, I also want to clarify something.
Go ahead.
I do not hate solvents, and
I think you probably just have the same attitude.
The hash, yeah, no, exactly. I stress my solventless because most people just view it and think that it is made with butane. I prefer using ice and water. For the terpenes that I'm able to extract,
and for his art.
But there's some oils and waxes that my friends have made that have grabbed a bunch of those terpenes as well that I enjoy. I don't discount any of the solvents. I do, however, when I teach people, I do like to make it very clear that they are quite a bit more dangerous, and I like to stress the fact that we should be very concerned with the safety of using them. But other than that, and I don't knock solvents really.
I can't.
You'll see on the internet that I promote solventless, but I never knock.
You would have
solvents.
never helped me out as much as you did if you were as against solvents as maybe what it. No. I cannot imagine.
The reason I helped you is to stress the safety.
Yeah.
That's the reason I came over here.
Yeah. And and I mean he wasn't here. We were actually making it. He had to take off. But another thing about it is Derek, you mentioned like the apartment thing. Like, I can't imagine unless you had a chemistry hood that you were working under. You were a professional chemist, knowing how to work with these chemicals indoors, everything right. I can never in a million years after doing this imagine somebody doing this indoors and getting away with it. It will not happen. Don't even think about it. Don't try it.
Not even with your pilot off.
Don't do anything
indoors.
with it. It will not freaking.
You basically need to understand. We handle more dangerous substances every day, but we have more common sense about those substances. Mm-hmm. So people hear about one of these things and they've got no practical knowledge or common sense about it because it's the new thing, or that all your internet or all your knowledge in the world is derived on what three guys told you and what you watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's not the time to start experimenting with dangerous shit. Like we drive cars every day, but look at how much information has been poured into that, telling us how unsafe they are before we feel comfortable with them. So we need to actually make sure that the people that really are the ones that push forward with that, and when we come up, I keep hearing people talking about they're going to make solvent hash illegal, and if they do, it's from a complete position of ignorance, using nothing but fear mongers by your side. Because, like I said, there's some products that are excellent, but there's no way I can make, there's no way I can make the Tears product with water. I would have to charge 5 times as much as we do, because the critical extraction of the THC would be just that. It would only be you're talking about such a pure THC only product that you're leaving behind quite a bit as well.
And then the amount of time that goes into it. I mean, you have to pay somebody or whatever with that. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things that go into it.
Oh, certainly. Like the amount of time that, and like I'm completely against some solvents as well. Rick Simpson,
the naphtha.
Yeah, Rick Simpson has done a great thing by shedding light on the idea of hash oil, but he's almost done a horrible thing in how many people assume that it's safe to be using naphtha or isopropyl as your primary solvent. And that's just simply a cheap way out. I would never, I couldn't imagine. I bought the naphtha one time and I couldn't even bring myself to use it because it was just I mean, the tin can, the skull and crossbones, the fact that it was from the hardware store,
Jeez.
you know, like all these things. I was like, dude, none of this adds up. I don't give a shit what these internet places say. I'm thinking about my own, and you know, Tim, you know me. I make everything for myself first.
They found carcinogens in naphtha, didn't they?
Yeah, dude,
Why
it
are
was
we
so
giving that to our
crazy. I was like,
cancer patients?
I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about what is left. You know, like I wasn't even thinking about the dangers of just working with it. You know, you need to have just being around this thing. You should be having a mask on so you don't even inhale the fumes because it's so dangerous, let alone worry about cooking it off and all these other things. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just worried about what the hell is leaving in my product.
Yeah.
So that's why I immediately, you know, like I don't think it's a huge secret. Some people know I use, you know, the cleanest, most expensive Everclear you can buy, because in my mind, in convincing myself first of common sense, at least in its original form, that is meant to be for human consumption. You know, like it's bottled by somebody. I can't imagine who consumes it other than the watermelon or the jungle juice. But it's sold in the liquor store with other things that, you know, like it's got an FDA license like everybody else, making something for human consumption. So that was the biggest reason. And, you know, same thing with the butane. If I don't have the right butane, I won't make hash oil, because now that like Vector and a bunch of these companies are becoming more prevalent, and they're, you know, blowing out. I think Vector's like 5 times filtered now or something. Yeah,
it's 5x. Over 5x is what they have on the can, is what it says.
I think they got down to like under 50 parts per million or something, like something crazy. But before, you know, when I started learning about this stuff 3-4 years ago, the
only stuff was Colibri, right?
Yeah, like that was the clean stuff, and everybody, like everyone's like, oh, just use this. And I'd talk to people that were using like the yellow can with the red lid, you know, like China. No, like the worst shit ever.
Watch out.
And I couldn't even, I was like, dude, I don't even want to make this simply because I don't want to use this product. And it wasn't until I actually found a Zippo like 3 times filtered for camping first. And then I found the Colibri for really nice lighters. And until I found those two, that's when I started making the hash oil. I already had all the knowledge, but I kept passing up. I wasn't going to buy Rosinol or whatever that, you know, the white and red can that they had. Everyone's like, just go to King Soopers when you're looking. I was like, that's not quite what I'm looking for, because I'm looking to use this myself. You know, like there's some people that their primary goal or their primary motivation is monetary, and they make a lot different decisions than somebody that's primary motivation is healing. You know, like I've never ever taken a product to a patient that I haven't used myself first. And I've been using cannabis medicinally for over 10 years. And I think I have a pretty good judgment based on those years of, basically it was 6 years of getting nothing but crap that gives me the judgment to know what's good and bad today. Mm-hmm. You know, like it would be hard for somebody like a new to the, you know, let's say somebody just is decided that they're not going to take painkillers their whole life and they're going to switch over to cannabis. They're 25 years old or whatever, and they're going to jump headlong into this. It's crazy. They're going to go to a dispensary and get what I would have considered for 8 years the very best weed on the planet. You know, so you know what I mean? The amount of time and thought that goes into this by a new to the game person will always be markedly less. You know, people that have been around and experienced crap and been through, like they keep saying it over and over, but I can't imagine that there's a swag market in Colorado. You know, like I don't know where this swag is going, if it's still coming here, but at one point that's all I knew of was, you know, dirty Mexican swag coming in from all over and certainly benefiting no one but a cartel and the greedy bastards up the supply line.
The people in the chat are like, "Ooh, you said swag."
There's people in southern Colorado growing, quote, swag right now for some dispensaries on Colfax. I kid you not.
You mentioned there for a second
I'll
ago.
tell you, that's a much better situation than me walking into several dispensaries in my time here and seeing them advertise Mexican swag.
Stuff you know is coming from, like crunched, is packed.
I swear to God, I have seen dispensaries in the state of Colorado advertise the fact that they've got Mexican swag.
I've seen it too.
It was prior to House Bill 1284, but you, again, with the fucking common sense, you were given a very delicate permission and right by the state of Colorado. Certainly, we're already tiptoeing on the federal statutes. Don't start implicating yourself in a multinational drug ring when you have permission to be growing and selling this precious plant here. So the foolishness of that, it made me sick that people were willing to risk you're taking a product that came from Mexico, let alone across the state borders, like I couldn't believe when because same thing. People were advertising, oh, this is Cali, straight from NorCal. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you were mistaken by the rights afforded to us by Amendment 20. Like, those are pretty specific state-given rights.
Yeah. You mentioned there a minute ago, you were talking about people or you were talking about yourself, that you couldn't just come into this and know what you know now. And that's obvious. I think anybody that's in this understands that. But what's frustrating, dude... I don't know if we want to get off on this or whatnot, but what's frustrating about that is seeing how many people that just came into this because it's a money-making thing, and I understand that part of it, and I don't hate that, but I also don't like the fact that they don't know the things that some of the other people know about this industry, and it bugs me that some of those people aren't taking care of the industry like they should, it goes both ways. It's not just the people coming in from the outside, it's the people on the inside that are in the know that aren't taking care of things either. So we just got to be smart about things, man. You preach education a lot when it comes to when it comes to everything, and I agree fully. We had a conversation late last night. There was a kid that came in here that said he was 17 years old. And, ultimately, we probably can't allow him to stay in here. But that doesn't mean for a second that we can't, have a conversation with them, on one end or the other. Not necessarily about cannabis, but about responsibility, and a road towards this specific product, Making people understand, and not necessarily this 17-year-old kid, but making people understand not only the difference between this and crack and heroin, but also the differences between cannabis itself, the hemp, teaching people about hemp. You've said
that's actually where I beg to differ a little bit. I actually, we'll have to talk to somebody about the legal aspects of it, but as far as the information being given, I'm not doing anything, disseminating information is a lot different than, showing pornography or something.
Yeah.
I'm completely comfortable if a high school wanted me to come and talk about cannabis education.
I tried arguing that last night. I agree with you, but I had to go with the listeners, man. I hate to interrupt you there, but I agree with you, man. If a 17-year-old kid wanted to come in the chat room, I hate kicking him out. I really do. I hate kicking him out.
As long as because I'll make it known to everybody. I think that my cannabis use as a teenager, if I could go back with educated wisdom, I would refrain. There's simply, and I would refrain full on knowing that when I turned 18, 19, 20 years old, that I was going to become the biggest cannabis user on the planet. But just the information I've got from, the possible damage that it does to a developing mind. Yeah. Not even the mind, just to the learning process of a developing mind.
I agree.
Become who you're going to become. Become who you are, and when you are who you are, then you can stand firm in saying, I am a cannabis user. I don't want anybody to be hoodwinked into it. I don't want anybody to succumb to peer pressure. I want you to be smart enough and educated enough and grown enough to make this incredibly easy decision for yourself that cannabis is incredibly useful to most human beings, and in one way or another, you should be using it. And I will say that, period. every human being in America should be benefiting from cannabis. And I don't give a shit if it's recreational, medicational, or medicinal, or industrial. And the big group of that is industrial.
Yeah.
You know, the common sense no-brainer is if you're not using cannabis or hemp as an industrial product in your life, you need to severely reevaluate what you're purchasing and why you're purchasing it. Because we're talking about products that are far superior and cost far less and are natural. So when you talk to anybody about these and you fail to mention the name cannabis, you're going to have them on board. And then when you bring up cannabis, the stigma that we've wrought on this poor plant is so damning that most people will back out of you're going to back away from industrial products or the most nutritional food product known to man, or car parts or biodiesel, or the millions of products that can be probably made with this, because in 1939 they estimated industrially that some 30,000 products or something could be made, Popular Mechanics, and that was in 1939. Imagine with our ingenuity today, not only our ingenuity, our insatiable fucking desire to own everything and all the things that are made out of plastic that could be made out of hemp, and everybody wants to own 10 of this and 3 of these, and they want to live in a throwaway society where we don't have VCR repairmen or TV repairmen anymore. You just buy one cheap enough to replace it when it breaks.
Why is hemp coming on specially made Ferraris? Why can't it come on everything?
No, why is it that Lotus and Ferrari are using hemp as a selling point and making it a more expensive commodity, when in fact fucking Ford and Chevy should be putting their piece of shit cars together with hemp paneling, and it might save them because of the steel costs.
I agree.
The cost of doing business is much less if they were actually growing hemp, and instead, because of the niche commodity that it is, we have companies that are innovative and care about what people think, and those companies are turning out to be Ferrari and Lotus, and these companies that are putting hemp in a $200,000 car like they're doing anybody a favor.
I know.
You know, at that point, you're doing the rich people that smoke weed a favor, because they're like, oh look, somebody gets it. They get your money. They're still in a capitalist market, because you're not using hemp as a commodity at that point. You're using it as an eccentricity, which is part of the reason we're screwed right now.
Carbon fiber, man. I was watching the show about the car. They were talking about these cars that had hemp specially made into them and stuff. And they were even talking about like how some parts can't even be made necessarily because it's just the materials, everything, the process is just not in place, but they know they can do them. Like carbon fiber. Yeah. You can replace carbon fiber car, you make a whole hemp car, man. Like concrete lasts 800 years, they're estimating. 700-800 years, hempcrete. You've taught me.
No joke. And people are like, "Is that a sponge?"
You have opened my mind. You alone, like honestly, dude. I've heard a lot about, but because you've been so close here, you sat to the left of me here for a while and preached it. You know, I've looked into my own things and just the stuff that you've talked about. Because you're not maybe that, and I don't want to offend anybody here. You're not that, long-haired hippie guy that talks about hemp all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for those people too. But we got that slight of change of guard. You're part of that change of guard, Derek. You're part of that new word of people coming in that's a little bit different than the last guy. So, I
got my uniform on right now. My hemp hoodlum camouflage Arctic camo. I did have long hair, and I cut my hair off to be taken seriously by people when I talked about cannabis and in general, medicinally, when we were opening up the store, the way I talk about hemp, basically, I didn't want to be stereotyped. I loved my long Jesus hair. It was beautiful.
But that culture is important. There's two sides. We can have both sides. I always want to argue that. We have those both sides,
Completely. But I can also say that, one tribe might have been fighting for a long time with just sticks before people showed up with bow and arrows or guns.
I sort of think of it as sort of in the same way, in a different way. The change of guard thing, I absolutely love sort of thinking about that. But I think about so much more when it comes to hemp and the quality and what we can make from it and what can happen. It's just absolutely awesome. So I encourage everybody to really get to the point, where Derek is, get to the point where I am, where you're like, it absolutely dumbfounds you.
And it's the easiest thing to educate your family
as you do
on.
about cannabis.
We're talking about the building the cars and stuff with this Ferrari and Lotus, and I joke at Ford and Chevy. The sad truth is that Ford did try to do that. Ford did have that idea on the very first production car that this country ever seen. They wanted to put his very first. I don't even know if it was the Model A or Model T.
Model T.
But it was made with that hemp fiberglass paneling, and it was running off of biodiesel. Ford had his own plantation growing hemp. And so the fact that we're just now thinking that, this is a new discovery. No, this is still us trying to get from under the dark what they've done to what has been historically the most helpful natural resource to human beings since we discovered it. There's more and more evidence being found that it's the oldest fiber that we used for clothing. So chances are that Jesus Christ used hemp. He might not have been smoking anything, but he was probably dressed in that time period. If the more you look at facts, the more it's going to tell you that there simply wasn't a human being alive at that time that wouldn't have used hemp as their rope, as their cloth, as their something in their life, because there wasn't that many plants around that were that long and fibrous in the cordage, and to make the rope, you couldn't pull off those long fibers. The braiding just worked so easy. You had more herd than anything else when it came time to making like the paper and stuff. So you just end up with looking at historically. If you can take away the fact that we blackballed this product and tried to destroy historical facts that it ever existed, worse than genocide. We wanted to create genocide for this plant, but then we also wanted to erase its existence. And thank God that we were unsuccessful in doing so, and there's a new group of people that are willing to take on this fight.
We got close for a few generations, man. It got awfully close to spreading out to another generation. If we wouldn't have had the boom I think that we had with medical marijuana here recently, it would still be a huge hidden fact that George Washington grew hemp, But I think because of the boom, the interest of the internet,
the fact that it is not common fucking knowledge and taught in social studies to our children is a crying shame. The fact that the reason that we are independent was we couldn't depend on England to give us. People don't even realize these facts. They're so far removed in a modern society from needing a piece of paper that they'll never understand or comprehend that. But there was a time in American history when we couldn't even make enough of our own paper. There's no internet to tell everybody we wanted to revolt. We had to get papers out and deliver papers to people to tell them that we wanted to revolt. And we simply couldn't have done it if it wasn't for the production of hemp and the fact that people with ingenious minds for not their time, for our time, for the time of the planet. People like Benjamin Franklin, who are one of the greatest minds in American history as far as the inventiveness. This guy's got a paper mill and is able to make hemp paper, and we are able to print and get paper out to our people without asking the people we're trying to revolt for.
Journals.
For paper. The journals. The original copy of the Declaration of Independence, all of those were all hemp paper. And the fact that this is all, people don't know this, that it's not common knowledge, that it's not a respected fact of our history, that we use this on the New World, as Americans, when we gained our independence, that there was a time when you could pay your taxes with hemp. There's a time in Virginia when it was illegal if you didn't grow hemp. There's a time when, like all these facts that were actually like, it's one thing to try and get rid of hemp because of the cannabis or because of the problems. But again, you are simply the worst of the worst kind of people if you won't simply admit the beneficial aspects of this plant and what it has done for our kind.
You're the worst of the worst. You're the worst of the worst. And one thing I want to mention about in there and is interesting and is definitely not...
Holocaust denier.
Yeah,
I literally, like, you're the same as a Holocaust denier if you don't see the value of the cannabis hemp plant.
I could see where you're saying there. Going back where we talk about the journals thing and talking about what was written in those journals, interesting fact about what George Washington said in those journals. He separated, male and
George
female.
Washington, he didn't say that he separated. In one of those journals, he said that he made it down too late to separate.
Oh,
he
yeah, that's what it was.
That he hadn't made it there in time to keep from pollinating his females because he was looking for sinsemilla.
Why would he be doing that? Well, maybe
that's
to use
the
it.
Only reason.
Smoke it. Like, yeah. So that's what's crazy. And they're not going to teach that in school. Why would they teach that in school when an hour later, after they get done teaching that, the DARE officer is going to come in there and tell them that it was it's the most horrible thing that they could ever get their hands on? It's like...
They need to teach them because we couldn't have won World War II without it.
Yeah, I agree.
They need to teach them because we couldn't have colonized America without it. They need to teach them because the fucking Oregon Trail, the game that everybody plays, would not exist if it wasn't for the canvas that we use to cover those fucking wagons. And those need to be, at some point, like I said, everybody that has a feeling like me just needs to make sure that it doesn't go unlooked anymore. Like, I will be that parent that when my kid is in school, I will be asking all these questions of the teachers and making the teachers ask it of their principals or whoever, and making the other parents, I'm sure my poor kid will get kicked out of all these schools if we haven't changed things by the time I have a kid and have him in school or her in school, and they're learning the bullshit that is brought forth as fact. I simply, I will revolt again.
Yeah, take the kid out and teach them yourself, or at least let them come home.
No, you can't take kids out of school. I truly believe the socialization.
No, I mean, take them out for that class. Like, I honestly think that, like, that damage of that class does more than, like...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, take them out of the DARE class is what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
They don't need to learn about cocaine and heroin. You teach them about marijuana. You teach them about cocaine. You teach them about heroin. And they can introduce... I don't know, man. I'm not even I have to think about it a little bit more, but I'm not even a fan of teaching kids till a certain age, till maybe like I don't know, man. It's crazy. You introduce cocaine and heroin and that idea into their brains, and they normally wouldn't ever think about it. I don't know.
Dude, we've talked about this before. I would have never known what the hell cocaine was if it wasn't for DARE coming to me when I was like in 3rd grade. Yeah. I would have had no idea until 7th, 8th, and 9th grade when I started wondering about movies. what cocaine was. But instead, dude, we were all joking about it at an early age because I was like, dude, this is that cocaine. And then, of course, everything changes when when you know that something is bad and they don't want you to have it. Yeah. Just the illicit want and desire of things you're not supposed to have is what I'm sure led some people down a horrible road of addiction, because you're talking about substances that are literally can take your life the first time you use them. And to lump cannabis in with those items is just an injustice that I can't let go on beyond my lifetime,
I hear you. We're going to have a revolt in the chat room if we don't get back to hash, man. I told the people it was going to be hash day, and they need to understand. There's a few people that understand and are trying to explain to them. Chata, this is extremely important
when
information.
Derek's just talking about hemp, and you piss them off, then just let him talk, because...
Let him go, because it's important information.
Is Selecta there with you?
Yeah, he's sitting to the left of me.
Oh, man, see, that's why I should have just...
No, you're fine, dude. We got 70 people in the chat room today. 70 people every day. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So, you 70 people here, and you go off about hemp and stuff, and Rag's like, woo, Derek Rant.
70 people to tell at least 10 people in the next 10 days, and we can actually try and affect some change this year, because... Like I said, if you've got kids and they're bringing their history assignments to you, you should be interjecting the hemp knowledge fortify the hemp knowledge that they're taking out. That's what I did with my little sister. I have experience in just that. I felt bad at the time, and people used to tell me, I can't believe you did that. Like 10 years ago, I'm 21, 22, 23 years old. My little sister was 11, 12, 13 years old, going through anti-drug programs in school. And I would take her all the time behind my parents' back. My parents would have flipped out at the time if they would have found out what I was doing. But I would take my sister aside and make sure that I would ask them what they said about ask them what they said about weed. And then I would make sure that she understood, well, that's not really how it is. You know, like, you need to know this. And I would have, even at that time, I already had information printed out for her that I had found on the internet, you know, as far as the health reports and this and that, all the facts that we've repressed all the studies. And basically, when a smart person is presented with the facts, you come away with it's an impossible conclusion to come to that cannabis is bad for us.
Yeah, it's just your pride that's going to get in the way of your decision to make that. So.
Simply people not wanting to admit that they've been lied to by their parents or their teachers or the people that loved them or whatever the situation is. You were wrong. Get over it. Let's get on to the next stage, and which is no longer denial, acceptance. This is what it is. Let's teach. Let's educate. Let's do the right thing. And, you know, half of that is what Selecta's doing with the hash group. However, I do have to figure out a way to block the chat because it pops up way too much for me.
You go in there in the upper right-hand corner of that space in there. It says settings. Just click it and then unclick
There's also
email.
a chat settings as well.
Yeah, there's two in there. You just unclick those two boxes in that settings.
I do
thing.
apologize for anybody if this has bugged them.
On Facebook, you can add anybody to any
you
group
can add it. This is something that just started with Facebook just a few months ago. I got added to one of these cannabis groups and got all these emails in my inbox, and I was like, wow. They just got me. That's an awesome marketing scheme. So I went for it.
It's crazy. Tim,
I added a couple hundred people, and
I was like, "Shut up!" And he added me to a thing 2 minutes later.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Okay." And I had to immediately try and find out how to do it. And I mean, if anybody's having a problem, all you have to do is unadd yourself to the group, and it blocks you from being re-added. But
if you'd like to stay in the group, though, and not receive notifications, just click the settings tab. It won't send you emails anymore.
Right? Yeah, this is the first one I've actually stayed part of because there's actually good knowledge in there. That one day I remember Joe Pietri, Tim's very best friend on the planet, dude.
He's second friends with a lot of people right now.
He's second best friend.
Man. In fact, there's some lawsuits going on. I don't know if we should be talking about Joseph Pietri right now.
Right? So I seen that. I was like, well, I hope this doesn't last long. I will just simply get out of this group again. And luckily, the ship was righted almost immediately. And it's just back to, you know.
I had to do something about that.
I think Selecta was trying to be the benefit of the doubt, you know, thinking that maybe he could play fairly. But
I kept giving him the option, and I kept telling him if there was slander, I can't have this on the page. This is a positive page, and I created it for a reason, for sharing. And
let's go back here real quick to this question that we didn't. Derek called in, and we didn't quite get to answer.
The wax.
We were talking about the difference in the wax and bubble. Like, how do you make bubble into wax? Go ahead.
So basically, water extraction, one of the biggest variables, as mentioned before, is going to be your starting material. Like I was explaining, with even solvent extracts, there's certain strains that will wax up immediately, and there's certain strains that will remain in oil. This is the same type of thing with water extraction, because we're just working with trichomes here. So there's some strains that I do that just stay oily. They just retain those terpenes, those oils, and they appear like an oil. Whereas there's some strains that I produce that immediately wax up. And you're not going to get that real wax look, the solvent wax look, unless it's a super high quality strain. So there's not too much different that I'm actually doing to the water extract to change it from a water extract into a wax. A few things with temperature to get that consistency, a few things with the curing, always making sure to get all water removed. That's one thing I highly stress, is breaking up the product while wet.
And don't press. Don't press, you say?
Yeah.
I'll say that's one of the most often
mistakes, right?
Mistakes on people making their own water hash is they're pressing water into the hash, and it ends up with that moldy smell.
Exactly.
Or that moldy. I don't even know if it's
that earthy wet smell. Yeah.
Yeah. You're simply not breaking and they're like, dude, I never get the yield. Well, it's because you're yielding water.
Yes.
You know,
The other
need
thing
to
is-
break that crumble up and dry it out and then repress. You know, you're never going to get the water out if you leave your hash extraction in the little ball that you got out of in the bottom of the bag or whatever.
And these whole pressing screens, they shouldn't be called pressing screens. They should be called lay it on there and to dry screens, because the whole idea of pressing hash while there's water in it, like you said, that you're going to trap water inside 2 weeks down the line, that you're going to break open that hash. It's not going to look pretty inside, and it's going to smell mildewy.
Not to mention,
we've had several hashes mold on us.
Straight mold.
That you know, thank God we're not doing thank God we do most of our hash ourselves. But in the history of our 20 months of being open or whatever, especially in the beginning, vendors would bring me a hash that, you know, like I would even be tricked a couple of times into thinking that it was dry and it was just, you know, some really nice sticky hash. And we'd put it in the little individual containers, and sure enough, dude, 5 days later, pop one open, it's covered in white mold,
white fuzz,
and I'd be suckered, you know.
It's scary. The other thing that I like to mention as well is when you are breaking up the material after you've pulled your bags, I've kind of swayed away from using a sieve. I used to use a sieve to break up my material into little teeny balls so that it can properly dry and cure. Now I'm using more of the razor blade knife technique. I'm actually able to break up the hash without agitating it too much, without breaking too many of those trichome heads.
Nice.
There's actually a certain stage. This is one of the comments I think a lot of people have been waiting for. There's a certain stage in my drying process after, depending on the type of hash, but after about 3 to 5 days of drying, I break it up a little bit further, actually breaking some of the trichome heads, not all of them, but some of them, creating that oil. And then I can trap that oil with no moisture whatsoever. I can trap that oil within the trichomes to give it that real oil appearance. People keep asking, how do I make oil from water extract? Not all actually, I'd say 95% of the trichome heads are still completely intact. When looking at this product underneath the microscope, you just see heads. However, there's ways to slightly break the trichome heads to create an oil form.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something there, Derek. I was waiting for you.
Oh no, I'm readjusting. I'm sitting in my Cadillac office outside my garden in Boulder.
Awesome. Hey, let me ask Perps. Did that answer your question? You're good to go. You're selling me things. So it seems like you answered the question. Any more questions from the chat room? Go ahead and toss those our way, and we'll get them to you. We're talking with Select and Nikka T. He is one of the premier hash makers here in Colorado and the rest of the world, I would definitely say. So appreciate you being here and taking the time to spend as much time with us that you have, dude. It's incredible.
My pleasure. I'm in this to share the knowledge. I'm not a hoarder. I like to share what I do because I'm sharing something that's more healthy than a lot of things out there. I feel good about it. I love to just spread it. I try not to hold anything back.
Not misconstrue your knowledge too, even if it like I feel the same way with some of the other ideas that may be more dangerous to create. But this is one that you can easily put out there with good conscience that nobody is ever going to do anything but get wet.
Maybe throw out your back. I've done it a few times,
Right.
That's crazy. I have a few more here a few more questions for you. Mm-hmm. One, Yellow Anna in the chat room was talking about, she wants to hear about, we talked about drying, pressing, and decarb. What's decarb?
Yeah, so decarboxylation.
Do you ever decarboxylize any of your stuff, Selecta?
Yeah, I do. A bunch of my low-grade stuff, a lot of stuff that's not actually sold through our shop that's more wholesaled, but some of the lower grade stuff I do decarboxylate, and actually I choose some of the lower stuff because of more of the CBD content in it, and that's why I choose to decarboxylate it. Decarboxylation is a process using heat and pressure to basically change the inactive cannabinoids into psychoactive form of cannabis using heat and pressure. So I do
basically
this.
Like one of the I guess one of the most important things to realize with the necessity of it is it's something that's come up a lot when we're doing foods, because you're eating it and you're not ever, or you basically, you're never heating it again. With hash, most times people are smoking it, so you're converting everything at the time you're hitting it with a lighter or a torch. Okay. So a lot of people are looking for, you essentially are kind of decarboxylating your own hashish when you hit it with a torch. One of the reasons that it's imperative to do it with edibles, even like tinctures and things, is because you're never heating that up. You know, when you take it, you just eat it.
And you don't have to use something fat soluble to combine it with if you're decarboxylating. That's one of the biggest keys, because I don't know if you've seen the hard candies and stuff with just hash in it. That hash has been decarboxylated.
It's probably surprising, Derek, that I didn't know that. But that, yeah, dude, I had no freaking clue. Well, probably not, because he knows I can't cook. So
right.
But that's that's
so basically like a bunch of the, like if I'm gonna use, like I'll tell everybody, like the before I was using oil on a bunch of the products, I would do, like I would take 10 grams of hash, 10 grams of hash, and I'd sprinkle it or spray it even with my I've got a little hand pump olive oil mister, and I would spray it down with either almond oil, or a lot of times I use a little higher temperature oil, and throw it in the oven for, I usually go like 13 minutes or something on about 170, 180 degree heat, because it's actually reading a little bit less than what the heat is, and you don't want to go up too high. I think some people say decarboxylation is all the way up until like 215 degrees or something, and I've listened to people and seen with my own eyes the product become much better at like 175, 185 degrees.
Depending on how much plant matter in there, you can actually burn it at over 200 degrees.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you were actually looking at some smoke forming at that point. But I'll put it in the oven for 13 minutes on, like I said, about 180 degrees. And then I'll scrape it up and add it to my product. And, knowing all I've done there is, you're trying to make the inactive molecules active, more easily processable by the human body.
How do you specifically do it, Nick?
Well, for edible hash, that's actually how I would prefer to do it. Exactly how Derek explained. I use parchment paper on the bottom of my oven, and
you end up not with such a mess.
What's that?
No mess.
The paper
less
saves
mess.
you the mess.
Yes, exactly. And I do it for about the same. Depending on how much plant matter's in there, I can decarboxylate longer. Oftentimes I try without burning, if it's pure enough of a concentrate that I'm using, I try and hold it at about 168 degrees Fahrenheit for as long as 19 to 25 minutes if I can. Like I said, depending on how much plant matter's in there. But for my decarboxylation that's actually sold in stores as edible hash, I actually decarboxylate it in a stainless steel jack press. So I'm heating my stainless steel press up to about between 160 and 170 degrees.
Really?
And clamping down with the pressure.
Pressure is
a ton and a half. And the pressure really helps me to decarboxylate the entire chunk of hash rather than just getting the outside.
Here's something that I'm reading from the chat room here that absolutely is blowing me away too, man. This is an incredible show today, dude. You bring some incredible things here, and also with the combination of John Doe Radio, Normal Show Live, other shows out there, bringing information together. Dr. Mitch Earlywine on Normal Show Live a lot. He said somebody's saying in here, Dr. Mitch says that non-decarb cannabinoids have problems passing the blood-brain barrier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it means.
Wow.
So that we can't actually, get high from it. Or we can, but it's harder to get it through that blood-brain barrier.
And it's going to be less effective for your dome. Say you have maybe, if it turns out that cannabis is this amazing drug that could be used for, which probably will eventually turn out to be that it's this great drug for shrinking tumors and stuff. So maybe like something. I don't know. I am no doctor here, so I could be completely off. So maybe that would help a little bit more with like brain tumor situations that are inoperable. I mean, I'm being extremely hopeful here. I don't want to give anybody extreme hope, but that's got to be what we're talking about, right?
Well, I think, a lot of, the cancer cell erasing stuff has to do with extreme high levels of THC in someone's body. That's actually one of the reasons I'm trying to produce so much of this stuff that's above 70% THC, which most of the solventless oils are. Because if we have cancer patients, this has been shown. If a cancer patient's eating something that's above 70% THC, it's going to start decreasing cancer cells if they're eating 6 grams of something like that a day. Especially if it's decarboxylated.
Yeah, Phoenix Tears is another thing. I know, Derek. It's going to take a little more science for me to buy into what a lot of people say is like the cannabis cure
as well.
But I mean, I even know Derek started. I mean, why not take it? Well, I mean, it's not going to hurt you.
The only thing that's stopping me is the price.
Derek started taking it.
Yeah, it is easier for me because I have access and I have the knowledge, and I also have the back problems and the need for that sort of high levels anyways. But I completely, preventatively feel for my health that the fact that I'm using cannabis to treat so many other ailments will not only continue to help me look youthful, which I might, maybe not with this big old beard right now, but I sincerely, the older I get, the more and more complimented I am on my youthful appearance. I'm 32 years old, and I basically have had a pretty rough life, except for, like I said, I've been using cannabis medicinally for 10 years, and I feel great. Like my lungs, I smoked cigarettes for a long time. I quit about 5 or 6 years ago.
Really? I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Dude, I smoked 2 packs a day at one point. I smoked a pack and a half of no filter Lucky Strikes a day at one point in my life. And, it was the most, I realized basically the only reason I quit, I beat the addiction because I could not accept the fact that I was being hoodwinked. And I was basically being sold the most poisonous, unfulfilling. It wasn't doing a goddamn thing for me, and it was for sure. If you smoke cigarettes, for sure, they will be the thing that kills you.
What kind of tobacco do you smoke, Nick? Is it non?
You're bringing this into the.
I know. I'm sorry.
I do not condone tobacco.
Spliffs. You're a spliff type guy.
I do not condone tobacco. Once again, I do smoke spliffs. I have been smoking spliffs since I started smoking when I was about 12 years old. I do mix American Spirit tobacco with my hash.
Well, at least that's the best. I was going to say, if you smoke.
No, I still don't condone it at all. Yes, it doesn't have additives. It is still addictive. I just happen, this is the form of smoking that's the easiest for me. It's the smoothest on my lungs. My body's used to it at this point. I don't condone it, though.
Sorry for calling you out there. I don't want to make you feel like bad.
Well, as I talk about how damning tobacco is and how much I hate the tobacco industry, I also recognize the fact that I completely support the fallacy by using blunts. And I would love to get to the point when I can develop my weed paper, and I can't wait for that to happen. I'm still not to that point. Until then, I will continue to use the tobacco paper, knowing that it's probably the little bit of tobacco that I consume as the rolling paper for my blunts is probably the most unhealthy thing I do in my life.
Me as well. Yeah, I agree. There's just some things that we must do.
Hey man, I'm not gonna. You're taking a. You know what? You're taking a bigger step. You're not just out there smoking, actually. Puffing down an actual cigarette. You're mixing a little bit of greens. You're using. I
actually haven't smoked it. I rarely smoke a cigarette, a tailor-made cigarette. I just mix with my hash. I always have a pack in my pocket, but you rarely see me actually smoke.
Holy cow! I opened this jar of. Is this the lemon?
That is the Lemon Kush solventless wax that is available once again at the Cherry Co.
And I smelled this a minute ago when it got put, or a while ago, I guess it is now. We've been going on for a while. This is easy to talk about good cannabis and good hash when we got good people in with us, man. And we find out week after week how long we can talk about this. Anyway, when it was in the bowl, it smelled fantastic. But dude, I just opened this vial. Whoa!
It's lemons.
Wow, dude. The other.
Damn it! I could have been there.
I know the only other thing that I've like smelled that smells this good, Derek, is that sieve hash that you had that one time that broke up. Like this is, I didn't even know you could get a smell like this.
The smell of that.
The sour kush is even.
Yeah, the terpenes are even stronger.
Dude, you're the man. The people in the chat room are calling you like a legend already, dude. So and he keeps denying it.
I'll be honest. The pictures are. I mean, I've taken some beautiful pictures of a bunch of my different hashes. Oh, fucking stick cam.
I love it. You know what?
I'm opening up the stick cam page, and that's the ad.
We've been advertising a lot for Excedrin, so I just want Excedrin to know that
they owe us one.
Yeah,
right?
You're welcome.
Tim, are you still able to block those ads with yours, or do they pop through with it?
Firefox, I don't get any ads if I use Firefox.
Oh, Jesus, I'm killing people here today.
That's all right.
I'm a technical marvel as I'm trying to get into the... And actually, I was just checking to see if there's a cam open, and there's not.
Yeah, everybody. Well, we got 67 people.
Dude, you got crammed people in there.
I know. That's why there's no.
I could see from over here.
Yeah, dude, he's over here across the room. There's people on cams. Pretty good times. There's a cam open now if you want to hop on it. So.
Oh, that's because Dredd is a soldier.
What up? So I'm gonna load up some of this hash in here. Where were we at? The chat room. We talked about decarb. That was pretty incredible. Did we finish up with that conversation?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. If there were any more questions concerning the decarboxylation,
yeah, toss those in.
It's just nice that
look at all these people jumping off for me here.
We can decarboxylate for edible purposes. If there are any laws that inhibit us from selling concentrates, we can sell edible hash. Decarboxylation is nice as well for somebody like me who's lactose intolerant. A lot of the edibles out there right now are using dairy products to combine the fat-soluble part of the dairy to activate the THC. But for people like me that don't use dairy, hash edibles are very nice as well, just because you can eat it in anything. You can put the decarboxylated hash in your cereal if you wanted. It doesn't have to be heated at that point.
Now, the difference between the solvent hash and, like, I just smoked a bowl of my tangerine solvent hash that I made and some of this lemon. Yours bubbles more. Mine melts a little bit more. It seems like it's a higher temp for me to get mine smoke out than it is yours. I like that a little bit better, having less effort to get that. And it feels cleaner to me, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not trying to demonize the solvent or whatever here, but you got to do it exactly right to get really, really good solvent, I think, to taste as good as you can get with the bubble hash sometimes. I may be completely wrong.
The wax that you made smells great, though, so the terpenes are at least present. Which
you got to thank the tangerine for that. Agree. That's not me. Right. That's I did one of the easiest ways to make hash that there is, and that is actually blasting the butane, if you're doing it right. Now, remember here, you were creating basically a device that can hurt yourself easily. So don't.
Yeah, remember as you're making it, you're making a bomb as well.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that specific statement, but no, that's you can't avoid it. And
another nice safety thing I'd like to add in there with all these advents of glass tubes and the like for making butane extracts. Be very, very careful that you're not packing those glass tubes too tight. I've seen blowbacks, and it's not a pretty thing. There's a lot of safety concerns that go along with using solvents, and like I said earlier, I don't hate solvents. I just like to definitely, if we're going to be teaching people, I'd like to teach them the safest way possible, as Derek mentioned.
Let me show a tube real fast, and there's about 10 grams that can fit in each one. I'm going to show you a 3-tube system here on the cam, and there's about 10 grams that can fit in each one of them. Don't try and put any more in this size of tube. That's how much works. It's meant for an ounce at a time. I experimented with it. I used less. I didn't try to pack it anymore because that would be a little bit dangerous, but estimation, everything came out 10 grams each, an ounce at a time, a can each.
Mm-hmm. There's other receptacles for butane extraction as well. This is just a nice, safe version that Tim is going to come grab for us. It's also nice that it is sitting on a tripod, so you don't have to actually touch your hands to the freezing cold device. A lot safer this way, so you can leave it outside as well. This one is actually made by O'Keefe. It is the stainless steel, 100% stainless steel triple extractor, commercial extractor from O'Keefe.
Sorry there. All right, I'm showing the chat here at stickam.com/John Doe Radio. Derek also on the line with us. Derek co-hosted John Doe Radio. We're here with Select Nikka T. He is a great hash maker here. What were the name of the companies that you can get your hash from here in Denver? The Pearl Company's one of them.
The Pearl Co., the Cherry Co., and Highland Health are the 3 centers here in Denver that carry my extracts.
Okay, cool. Good times, man.
Thank you.
I'm showing these people here in chat. This is what it looks like. Anyway, 10 grams will fit into this tube each. And, I'm pretty positive that's what you want to use in here. So 10, 20, 30, you're using basically an ounce at a time, a can each. And I thought, honestly, I was using too much butane. Maybe they're like it was a can for all 3 of them, but it's a can each. It's got to be a can each, so... But that's a lot of butane you can go through if you've got a lot of trim. So be prepared. And it's about 60.
You got to get that hookup. Start paying $2 a can.
I know. I'm still paying like I was paying like 65. Thought I got a decent hookup, and I'm paying like 65 for a case of 12 of them. And then Derek's probably like,
that's not a very good hookup.
There's another nice thing, about using butane. One of the nice things about using butane is you can actually recycle it as well. There's got a lot of machines out there that do the recycling of the butane for you,
Really?
so you can still contain it as a pressurized gas and run it through and continue running it through so that you save more butane, which is a nice little perk to using a gas.
That's actually with most solvents you can come up with. I'm trying to get this little kind of reticulation type thing for my Everclear. Basically, that should be the easiest to actually catch. I'm just basically evaporating. You can see the evaporating Everclear, and if I can just get basically the little thing with a bubbler and then a glass bubble on the top with it looks like a little straw that comes off the bottom with a little valve, and you just basically set it up to drip into a different cup.
Oh, they even sell them at the science store down here in Denver.
Oh, nice. Maybe I'll have to just go in the science store. Sounds like such a fucking fun place anyways.
No, it's a cool place. It's called, what's it? It's right on Lincoln there, the Science Company or the Science Co. or something like that. They got those.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
I'll be journeying over there very shortly.
Awesome. Good times. Well, any more questions from the chat room, or I think we can add a call, too, if you guys would like to call 303-800-1965. I was going to go into some news today. Maybe we'll do the news after the recorded show, and then I'll do the news that I did tomorrow in the recorded show. We got so much hash talk and stuff. Why bail out on this when we got him? So, also, dude, I made you talk about the recycled butane, like you would probably have to be working at cold temperatures because the butane,
just an enclosed system.
System. Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Labs makes one.
We did do it at like 10 degree below. It was like 5-10 degree that one night we did it.
That makes it extra hard because if you do it outside in the summer when it's 80 degrees, the butane dissipates quite nicely when you start getting into the higher fucking temperatures.
But you can use. We boiled water. And boiled some water inside, and then brought it out, put it in another Pyrex dish that was bigger, and then it melted off. I mean, it wasn't a big deal, and honestly, I don't know, man, it was fun. It added character to my process.
I basically, I used to not tell anybody because it's so fucking dangerous if you're stupid, but I basically work my butane always over a griddle, and
what?
The heat that I get, basically the water's great, but it dissipates heat. I mean, it doesn't take but 2 seconds and you have cold water. So I started out by putting the water on my hot plate, and then I actually just started putting my Pyrex on my hot plate. And like I said, I won't even go into any more depth with people because they don't understand how to be safe with it. But now that I know, especially I know Select is not against solvent shit, I'll have to bring some vials down.
I'd love to try yours, Derek. I'm never against trying. I'm the one of the reviewers for Kind Reviews now, so I have been trying a lot more solvent extracts lately. I want something to impress me.
Oh,
you challenged him.
I build my life around making impressive cannabis products. So.
What are you smoking? People who want to know what you're smoking, they see on the cam rolled a blunt there like a superhero in 2 seconds.
Actually, I didn't.
Well, I was just assuming that you rolled it fast.
I know.
Now you're going to make me look like a fool.
You can time me.
Dang it. It's not a blunt. It's a one hitter.
One hitter. My little Rasta one hitter.
What is it? What is in there?
Chem.
The Chem Dog? Because we got
this is the Chem Haze.
Okay, because there's the Chem 91 too.
Chem Haze? I got
really
a friend
nice.
who does one of those. It's beautiful.
I've got, last January, I stayed up for like 40 hours to catch a res release. And I got res, the
Reservoir Seeds.
SFF crossed by Double D.
ECSD? The SFD times ECSD?
Yep.
That's funny. One of my friends is doing that. I was just out in Maine to see my son. And one of my friends out there is doing the SFV times ECSD. That's the East
really
Coast
nice.
sourd. So it is. It's a nice yielder too for an SFV.
Yeah, for sure. Then there's the Chem Haze, and that was a limited release. The Chem Dog Double D crossed with the Haze that they did. Some of them, like there's a couple phenos that I don't know about, but as with everything, the more I crack seeds, the more I don't even get upset. I just simply, some brothers are the Danny DeVito, some brothers are the Arnold Schwarzenegger. And luckily, we're dealing with plants that don't have feelings, so you can just axe the ones that are no good and move on to the next. But I've come across some really nice different chem cuts out of that, and I'm excited to get them out. We're just now, that was like one of the first ones we flowered to see what they were made of, and we're just now getting to a point where we're going to get a nice, huge crop going of them.
Yep.
How's the response to the Cold Creek Kush been? How can you tell that?
Try that.
Yeah. Nick would like to try it a lot. I know a lot of people that would like to try it. I would like to eventually pick it up if that's what I continue to do. So that would be awesome. I would so kindly as to ask you, please, can I have a cut of the Cold Creek Kush? I will not. I will not give it out. I promise.
I promise, Tangerine Guy. No, it's not even up to me right now. I don't even have that cut.
Damn it!
I'd just like to taste the flower.
The information, just so people don't think I'm that greedy prick. I don't care that the strains have got out. I'm really proud.
I try telling people
I'm
that.
Sad that people have damned it to the point where it's undetectable and the knowledge is so diluted that tangerine does not mean tangerine, because the Dutch companies have revitalized that name.
Barney's Farm had to go screw you again this year, had to win the cup, and everybody thinks it's the same thing.
That's it. And I think that, I'm no longer in such a small world that I think that we don't have influence on other people. So I know those people in Amsterdam, and I've met them. They take mark and notice what's going on over here. So it's not completely unthinkable to think that the hype that the tangerine has gotten in Colorado is part of its revitalization in the Netherlands, because the Netherlands, more than anywhere, plays it like a marketing game, and they're just, kind of selling a commodity. And in Colorado, we've made a staple about, or a name about one strain that is now confused with, like I said, Peachtree Kush, Tangerine Haze, Tangerine Dream, Tang. I mean, as far as I know,
everybody says Tang. Stop messaging me. If you're going to ask me a question about tangerine, put a freaking E at the end of it, all right?
I think it's pet peeve, dude. I love Tang, but that to me is an orange powdery drink mix that I like to eat with a spoon.
Or some
Has
Tangy
nothing
Tang.
to do with actually tangerine. And so that information, I love the accolades or whatever. It's just almost like a recording artist. Sure, you're proud that you have 1 million uncredited downloads, but it was an unmastered version, and you're not really getting it's not even about you. It's the song. Everyone's like, you just want credit for it. You just are greedy. You want the money. No, I don't. I want the tangerine to be represented in its most pure and beautiful form, and it simply is not what happened the way it got damned out. So I don't care what the hell you mute and push and tell him on the side.
No, it was the
about
Poontang, the room. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was trying to not interrupt you and laugh at the same time. They were the room's talking about the Poontang. That's what I think of when someone says Tang. I think of that first, and then I think of the astronaut's drink. And I'm like, I need some Poontang in a sandwich. No, I'm kidding.
Now, I need a tangwich, because like Al Bundy used to make a tangwich, you just put some bread, spoonful of tang in the middle, and pinch the edges so your tang doesn't come out, and you got a tangwich.
I love that show, man. My dad hated that show so much because it was like such a bad example of how a family should live. And then as older I got, I'm like, you know what? That's the satire of pretty much almost every single American family put in that. And somehow you can draw from that Married with Children show, you know? It's a little overboard, but, you know. If anybody, we got about 10 minutes here, and then I'm going to close it out. If anybody has any questions, please ask those in the chat room. Instant message me, the John Doe Radio Show, and I will be happy to ask either Derek or Nick here. Nikka. Select a Nikka. I'm just going to keep calling you what I've been calling you for the... You're going to be selective.
Nikka T.
Yeah, it's Nikka T.
Nikka T.
He's a DJ. He spins, so we'll have to get some of his mixtape stuff in here and play it and have him in here again. Super chill guy. He's invited anytime, as with most of the people that come on John Doe Radio Show. Anytime he wants to come on. So if you have any question... What? Go ahead.
There. Now you can see my ninja skills.
There you go. He's starting it right now, everybody. Now this is a challenge, so when he goes, watch it. Just watch it. So
that's Brian right now.
Yeah, Big Nate is with Big Nate. Kushhits.com. Is that the website? I'm sorry, dude, if I absolutely just screwed it up right there. Kushhits.com is your new website. It used to be Marijuana Music. Let me make sure. Yep, that's it. Okay, anyway, Nate has Kushhits.com. Me and Nate kind of been working together since I started the show. I think he started up marijuanamusic.net and his music thing and working with the Stone Zone show about 3 months after I started my thing. And sorry, I got distracted by Derek saying what up there. But anyway, he started about 3 months after mine, so we've been working together. We're good friends. I like what he's doing. Everybody needs to go to Kush Hits. Let me turn Derek down here a little bit.
Really?
I'll do the production work here.
And it's music.
Yeah, your music
cannabis.
is where we're. Kush Hits is basically just cannabis music. If it's got that cannabis feel, doesn't necessarily have to be about cannabis.
I got a few dispensary mixes I could throw up on there. If
I'm sure he would love that, dude. I can get you that information. But so tell us real quick about dude, that side, because I mean, I like it, man. I like the art side of you, man. You're one of those type of dudes who's just got that swag to him, that swag, whatever the hell it is. I dig it, man.
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area in California, surrounded by a lot of amazing musicians, DJs, artists. And ever since I can remember, I've kind of been into the reggae scene. Even as far back as the womb, my parents were always playing Bob Marley. But I'm, just have always been very involved in the scene, whether it be promoting, marketing, DJing, throwing events. I started in California. I took it out here to Colorado about 6-7 years ago and was selecting in Boulder, Colorado for a while. I'm now back in Denver. I was doing a few monthly events and weeklies. Right now, it's a little lull in the music life because the hashing has taken over quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But right now, as we speak, I'm looking for a new venue. In fact, my new venue may even be Stickham. May do a little cannabis DJ live event.
We'll have to get you over here. We'll have to you can bring your DJ equipment here. I've always wanted to have. I like what Be Real did with. I've always loved DJing. I used to do it myself, and I spun for a little while. And I wish that's one thing I wish I would have kept with was doing that side, but I had to pick either do that or buy a few musical instruments, and I bought some congas and bongos, a drum set, and so I've been a percussionist I took that side of it, but I always wanted to go back and learn a little bit more, so man, maybe there's some things you could toss my way.
That's
can come in here.
Just to being able to smoke spliffs, play records, and other people are doing the same.
Yeah, man.
So
maybe maybe this April we'll plan this big party. I know I want to talk maybe with, this is just talking out my yin yang. They probably already planned stuff, but I would like to do some sort of party especially with high times, say everything makes it cool till April with myself, that's a big month, huge month for me, man. And for Denver to have the month that it's going to have too, with the Cannabis Cup coming, NormalCon, I really would love to throw a huge party with all the people that are coming here, and just to have everybody get together and have a good time and just celebrate, where we've come in the past even 3 years, man. It's an amazing trek that we've had. So
celebration is in order.
Yeah, sure. It is, dude.
We've been grinding hard to get to where we're at right now. And
Derek,
another reason I promote safety and everything else is so that we can keep this going.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. So thank you hugely for joining us here on the show today. I think this is maybe one of the man, we've had a lot of great shows and classics and gold here, but this show, man, it stands on its own. The hashness of it is just like ridiculous. We just went on for 3 hours talking about hashish. Hopefully when I stop, let me stop this recording here to make sure that everything goes good. I'm so worried that if I stop this after any more than I go, that it's going to dump.
I don't get that black stuff, so I don't have to have a paper towel as well. So I have to clean it up when I'm done.
No, that's definitely nice.
You do have to be much more careful with the torch, or else you will scorch.
All right, there. I forgot to hit record before we were talking there for a few minutes. So that's the perils of not listening live. The people listening on the feed and the podcast, you just missed a few minutes there. You missed nothing, but oh, and then don't grab the glass is another thing. Yeah. I almost did that. I almost got a little stony. You have to pay attention to what you're doing.
I think I've told this story before.
Oh yeah, the Kyle Cushman story.
Rehashed it with Danny Danko because he was in the cipher.
Yeah,
but that was one of the not funny, but
it's evil.
It was evil, and I seen it happening, but I just thought Cushman had seen the product before.
Yeah,
I went out to California with knowledge of that product.
Yeah, you didn't do anything on purpose. He just. Yeah.
I wasn't even involved, dude. It wasn't. Even, I was just standing there. I was an innocent bystander. But the guy that heated it up and went to pass it to Cushman, passed it by the mouthpiece, and Cushman had never seen the product before, so he just grabbed it by the vial and was like, "Whoa, hot potato in the hand!"
Yeah.
And then he's ever the showman, so he was like, playing it off like it was no big deal, like "woo, woo," dancing around. But holy shit, I can't imagine grasping it, by the glass completely.
Not fun.
Ooh, man, that would suck. I missed something here from somebody. I don't want to miss this. Roland Reverend asked, real quick here, ice cream freezer, sub-zero temp, then filter. So you're talking about like stuff that you make ice cream with that'll freeze it in a sub-zero temp and then filtering that out. Would that work?
It's pretty much what I do. I don't know if I'm exactly hearing it correctly, but I work in a walk-in freezer. I use my ice cream freezer
but I think
my walk-in freezer to contain my plant material in between runs. Even I throw it back into the freezer, and I am filtering.
I think, is there a chemical though that makes things freeze faster or something? I think, is that maybe what they're mentioning?
Well, oftentimes people are using
don't add anything.
Dry ice, which is another chemical freezing property in their bags as well. But I actually don't really need the dry ice because it's number one, a bit more agitation for me that I don't need, and number two, I'm working in a stable environment that doesn't continue to rise in temperatures. So the dry ice is really something to really help keep the temperatures low.
Okay, and then I did miss one more. Is there anything you can use for trim besides extra runs after extraction? Like you got that gunk that's in there. What can you do with it besides throw it out?
Yeah, compost, as Derek said, and with the liquid afterwards, that's actually what I use to feed my house plants. Not any of my cannabis plants, but after you've let the liquid warm up to room temperature again, you don't want to feed it to house plants freezing cold or you'll kill them. But it's a nice plant-based nutrient for your plants. It's
recycle the water, recycle the plant material.
Mm-hmm.
There's certainly, if you're using flowers or something really good like that, I have had people that you can visually inspect it after it's dried out. And if I don't even want to, again, you should be doing a good enough extraction that you're not leaving very much. But if you feel like you are, then I would make a nice butter base. Like everybody that's close to me knows that I add my butter but I would use it for your nice butter base. Make a ghee, or render butter, make ghee, and then use the ghee in that and go a little bit maybe even higher temperature than you would for normal butter, and just use it as a butter base, just because then because there's basically, I know how people feel when you only have 1 or 2 plants, like an Indian killing a buffalo. You want to make sure that you have not left one viable piece of plant matter that you might have been able to use for something to go in the trash. So if as a last ditch effort, I would try, if it still looks like it may be of value, then I would make a butter. But after you've ran it like that, most oftentimes you're going to have just a mush, and you're going to want to end up with just a composting material or something like that.
Have you ever used the? No, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, sorry. The one thing I wanted to mention to be wary of with reusing the used plant material in specific, not the water, but just make sure that you completely get all the water out before you go and do that, or make sure that you're doing it immediately. Just don't let any mold grow on that plant material.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
If it's a wet clump, it will grow mold very quickly. In fact, if you leave the water sitting for more than 24 to 48 hours, even the water that we've already ran our material through, if you leave that, you will grow mold on the top of that water because there's so much chlorophyll in it after about 48 hours. So don't use that after 48 hours either.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, we've actually
safety tips.
I've gone to some of the like for my own personal stuff. If I'll be honest, if I have tange trim,
tang,
everything I can.
Sorry.
Or if I've got a couple of those trims that some of those terpenes transfer over so well into whatever you're making that I will. After I run, I'll make myself, I make personal tiers still because I'm using a lot myself. So I'll make those personal tiers, and I'll immediately, when I'm done using that, I have a nice food dehydrator with it's got trays in it to make fruit roll-ups.
Yeah.
And I'll just spread it out on that, pop it in, and let it dehydrate out. So then I can put it back in a container, label it, what it's been used for. But that is the same thing with the water. One of the things imperative, I've seen people over and over using their orange bucket or whatever, and you show up and they just continuously do it. So they think, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into the next day. And it's unbelievable what people don't understand about growing or playing with plants, water, light. How many things will actually start to grow.
Yeah. And we're lucky in Colorado that we don't have that many.
Yeah, some of the molds I've seen, like Selecta was talking about the mold on the top layer. I've seen that mold on somebody's bucket on the top layer where you actually could pour off the bucket and get a perfect disc of mold that was clinging to the sidewalls and shit of the bucket because they just let their water sit. And, before they seen that, they had full-on intentions of using it. And the thing I have to remind people is, especially some of those mold spores, it's not growing in size. It's only growing in number. So you're still ingesting the same fully grown mold if it's only a few of it there, as if you let it proliferate to a point where it's stacking up and becoming a mass. So if you're used to using your water after a day or two, like he was saying, and then you accidentally let it go 3 days and you notice this big funk, well, that's just because over that last day was when they all clumped together, because it was probably still in there the day before. They just weren't massed together yet. So you need to be careful, especially, we're not even talking about things. If you're just trying to get high, it's safer than huff and paint. But if you're using it as a medicinal product where you count it as adding to your health, then you seriously want to be doing everything you can to make sure that it's the healthiest means possible. Yeah, and that's eliminating any possibilities for the growth of spores or mold. I'm often cleaning those buckets out with a bleach water, letting them dry out completely and cycling my buckets to make sure that you've got clean ones to start. I've seen people let their bags. That's one of the other things I'd like to mention with the mold. Make sure you leave your bags out upside down to dry fully, because I've seen so many people use their bags and then while they're still damp, shove them back in together and then not realize that, there's a little bit of moisture in there and you're creating walls and walls and walls of mold. Pull their bags out to use the bags again like they're good to go. You got to leave those bags separated to completely dry out every time, because that mold doesn't take much moisture to start forming.
Yeah, I had to get a filtration system because of it.
Yeah. Let me tell everybody that's listening live, stickam.com/John Doe Radio. It is 2 o'clock in the Mile High. I am going to let you all know Normal Show Live starts now, stickam.com/Normal Show Live. Out of huge respect, I'm going to go ahead and cut this show for this week. Plus, we are limited on space on the server, so we'll see what we can do with that. But huge thanks to everybody that's joined us today. Huge thanks to Derek for joining us. Absolutely fabulous conversation that we've had here.
Hello.
Fantastic conversation we've had. So, Derek, you want me to let you go, man?
On location.
You want me to let you go, man?
Yeah, if you guys are good, I can go back in here and go back to work.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm good to go. Give me a holler later this
50
afternoon.
people? There's a little more than the 20 people at night, but...
Yeah, no, they're bailing to Normal Show Live right now, which is totally cool. Huge respect to,
that's awesome.
to Russ. Yeah, dude, so call me if you need any help with anything, dude. I can figure out how to help you up until these regulations go into place. So if or anything, man, I really mean that. The other night, man, if you needed help with your sprinkler system or whatever it was that busted.
Oh, dude, it turned into a nightmare.
Yeah, let me know. I know you try to be as stealth as you can.
The next day.
You what?
I didn't get water until that next afternoon.
Oh, jeez, that's a pain.
One of my reservoirs spiked to 21 or 2,200 parts per million in a veg because I couldn't add water to the fucking reservoir.
Wow. You get rid of that. All right, man.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good night.
Peace.
See you, man.
I'll talk.
I hung up on him. I hung up on you before. I hung up on Derek before he ended up saying goodbye. I had the itchy trigger finger there. So, no, Nick, huge dang old thanks to you, dude, for joining us today. Please come back. I know we didn't talk about some things. There's a few things that we missed. The person that was talking about the coldness and like the ice cream stuff, you mix together salt and this mix, and it basically makes things way colder. So you're saying basically as cold as you can get it.
He's saying bring it in at below 0 degrees.
Like as cold as you can get, as good as you can go without having it freeze, right?
I'm not going that low. I'd break off more plant matter if I went that low.
Okay, it'll get too cold.
Unless you are using a vacuum system, you can't really do it that way.
Okay, cool.
There's a way to do it.
I just wanted to make sure that we got that because I know that was kind of jumbled and I made myself sound like an idiot there that you mix salt in with ice cream and stuff. So I was trying to hurry. Anyway, huge thanks. How can people get a hold of your product, Legal Patients, here in the state of Colorado?
Well, first of all, you guys can always check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/Selecta Nikka T or DJ Nikka T. If you just search Nikka T, Nikka space T, you should be able to find me. But you can also check out my product at the 3 locations here in Denver, Colorado. The Cherry Co. near Cherry Creek, the Pearl Co. on South Pearl here in Denver, and Highland Health in the Highlands off of I-25 and Spear, as well as a few others that do carry my product throughout Colorado.
Awesome. And if you friend him on Facebook or...
I love to share, so feel free to ask me any questions you like. I try not to hold anything back.
Yeah, dude. And I if you're on Facebook with him, he can maybe like mention that something's going to be somewhere, and then you'll know ahead of everybody, and that way when you go it can actually be there. And I don't know how your product probably sells out pretty fast a lot of the time, so they probably try to make you keep them stocked up, right?
We stay fairly well stocked up, but some of the super nice solventless oils do sell out fairly quickly. We do have that Lemon Kush available at the Cherry Co. right now, though.
Awesome. Good times. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody that makes John Doe Radio possible, specifically you, the listeners. Without you guys, we would be absolutely nothing. The 70 people in the live chat today is big, man. That sounds like a small amount to some people, but we're building it up. I encourage everybody to please come back. Enjoy John Doe Radio every day, Monday through Friday, actually, I should say. 11 a.m. Mile High time. That is 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern. Huge thanks to you guys. Also, Urban Garden here in Denver. Thank you very much for the Illusion satellite glass piece that I've been hitting this awesome hash today out of. Is all I've had today is hash. That's crazy for me. I usually at least have a bowl of green when I get up.
Nice and clear-headed, too. No jumbling of words. That was good.
Yeah. Thank you. It was actually one of the more cleary days, so maybe I should think about the hash more often. But no, 303-761-GROW is Urban Garden in Denver, 4358 South Broadway in Englewood. UrbanGardenSupplies.com. That's where you can check out a bunch of stuff from those guys, not only the Illusion glass pieces. Ben Word, huge thanks to you, dude. HypeTreatment.com for the website stuff. GrowWise.com, huge thanks to Chris. DudeGrows.com, big huge thanks to Brett, DudeGrows.com. A great guy, so give him a holler, and we'll be getting that banner ad up on the website ASAP. So if you want to find that website, want to find out about him, you can go to johndoeradio.com. I'll get that fixed as soon as possible. Grow Your Own Grow Store in Denver, 2118 South Bel Air, 303-990-1929. I love these guys.
That's where I shop. Those are the family. That's the family right there.
This is fam, man. Like, straight up, would not be doing John Doe Radio without these guys, and I cannot say that enough. I also wouldn't
be doing what I'm doing without those guys either. So that's definitely key fam right there.
They are good people. Grow Your Own Grow Store, 303-990-1929, 2118 South Bel Air Street. If you live in Denver, you live anywhere near, and you're not going because of location, BS. Go there, support us, support fam, get it done, all right? Don't be going to some big-ass store that doesn't care about you and doesn't do anything for the movement, all right? There's a few stores out there that are great to go to. Grow Your Own Grow Store is one. GrowWise is another one. Hugely suggest those guys. Also, Craig Apothecary up in Northwest Colorado. Scott and Sean. Every day I give huge thanks to a lot of people, specifically Grow Your Own and you guys, and I find a way every day to try and make it a little bit newer and to try and dig deep down from the bottom of my heart and tell you guys how much it means to me. See, I'm going to get worked up. I don't want to get worked up. But all the things I've been through with all that crap up there and how you guys have helped me, guide me, help through it, I thank you. Cannot thank you enough. I am indebted to you crazily. Even after I pay you back, you will never be paid back. Thank you very much. And you, the listeners, I mean the same exact thing to you guys. Let me get the disclaimer up here because I absolutely got sidetracked by everything that was going on with this crazy talk that I forgot to put the disclaimer up. So huge thanks to everybody again. For Derek, for Nick, I am your host, John Doe. Thank you guys very much. Till we meet again. See ya.
Radio Show is produced by Charlie Stash Entertainment. The John Doe Radio Show programming is not limited to, but includes information and humor on counterculture subjects and is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. We specifically include responsible marijuana reform. Besides, listening to anyone but your mother is stupid. We accept no responsibility for your actions or misrepresentations, and we do not fully endorse the use of illegal drugs. You are ultimately responsible for yourself.
John Doe Radio. Live.